All right, welcome back to the Furlough Podcast. We have the dynamic Michael Yon on today. Michael, I appreciate you calling in or accepting my invitation. I know that you have a very hectic schedule. And for people that don't know Michael, Michael is a combat journalist, is what I like to call you. I don't know if that's what you like to call yourself. Former special forces, patriot, if you will, and seeker of the right to the right thing. I guess you would absolutely say. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I'm in my office now in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I've left Hong Kong for a short time, and I've been in Hong Kong since June of 2019 when that real serious uprising began. So I've been in that day and night for more than 6 months, just taking not really a break, but it's more work sometimes back in your office than it is in the fighting. And then you see this disease that's just broken out there in Wuhan in China.
I know, it's crazy. You know, that's how I got turned on to you is Sheila Borey. I don't know if I think you guys know each other and went to high school or something together. And
yep, from high school. Thank you, Sheila, if you're watching this.
Yeah,
I hope everything's doing good in Winter Haven. We're both from Winter Haven. Grew up in Winter Haven is one of the best places in the world to grow up.
Oh,
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that until I left, actually. I mean, it was nice. I liked growing up there. The only thing we needed was a mountain. We didn't have any mountains. You know, I'm from Florida. I'm from Winter Haven, Florida. The highest part in Florida is like 101 meters, I think. Literally, like one football field is our biggest mountain.
That is crazy.
So
that is crazy.
Florida is flat as a board, man.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is where I'm from in Winter Haven. I've been to Nepal. I spent a year in Nepal, right? So I walked up to Mount Everest a couple times, just to the bottom. I didn't go to the top. But at the but if you look at the latitude of Mount Everest, of the summit of Mount Everest, that's literally the latitude of my home in Winter Haven. Like literally, like to a 10-digit coordinate, right? So in other words, if you go across and look at a globe, or look at Google Earth, and you can get the numbers exact, and you go right across and follow that across Winter Haven, you'll cross right over my house. And so it's that precise. So a lot of people think that like Mount Everest is really far north. It's actually south. It's south. Like, for instance, more of a reference, if a lot of people know where Tampa, Florida is, where the airport is, Mount Everest would be right at the terminal. At the terminal of Tampa. Yep, the terminal of Tampa Airport, that latitude is the summit of Mount Everest. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
That is
because,
crazy.
You know, it's pretty far south, actually.
Yeah, you think it's way up. Way up.
Yeah, it's just cold because it's high. You know? So it's not cold because it's north.
That's right. Well, let's let everybody learn about you, because I think what you do is a fantastic job, or a very fascinating job. I've always been intrigued by combat journalists, you know, always reading back, always from things back to Vietnam, and these guys that either had or maybe didn't have military experience like you had, but they would put themselves in these precarious positions. And I know that you served your special forces, if I'm not mistaken. But after you got out, you spent time in Afghanistan, Iraq, and things of that nature. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep. I was in the Army, then I got out, went to school. Actually did security for Michael Jackson for a while, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then started a business in Poland. And later, the most interesting thing really I've ever done in my life was tracking some cannibals over in India and Nepal. It was epic, man. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
I don't know.
I didn't either. I was just over there doing my thing, and I came across some cannibals. I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" You know, I'm from Florida. We don't have cannibals in Florida. Not many anyway. You know?
Not many.
It's kind of
except for the ones on bath salts, right?
Yeah, except for I know. I said that, and I was like, "Well, that's not entirely true. There are some." The bath salt thing. That guy that ate the guy's nose or whatever.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Something like that. And but yeah, I got on their trail, and it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. And I started.
So why did you track them?
Oh man. Oh, just Florida man stuff. It's like, like,
I think that's the last thing I'd want to do is track cannibals because they're cannibals.
It's just like, why'd the man climb the mountain?
Because it was there.
One time I went to to Bangladesh, I was just looking for tigers. You know what I mean? So it was those are man-eating tigers too, and they eat a lot of people. If you look at Bangladesh and man-eating tigers, you are not going to believe how many people those tigers eat. It's unbelievable.
Well, with that being said, let me plug one of my shows. A guy I work with, he was in Vietnam, and he gave me military records from when he was in Vietnam about tiger attacks. And he had the daily rep sheets, where and we did a show on it called Vietnam Tigers, and he was talking about when they were they were on some sort of seek and destroy mission, and they were hung out, and it was the middle of the night, and all of a sudden this tiger had decided it was going to track them, and it started taking soldiers away in the middle of the night. You could hear them screaming, firing their M16s. It was a crazy story. But
man, it's tigers.
You need to check it out.
Yeah, tigers there's still a lot of them out there. I mean, especially like Bangladesh, it's a death penalty if you actually kill a tiger.
Oh, wow.
You get put to death. It's serious business. And those tigers, the Royal Bengal tigers, they live in the Sundarbans. And not all the Royal Bengals live in the Sundarbans, but the ones in the Sundarbans are Royal Bengal tigers. And they're the most voracious man-eating cats in the world. A lot of people don't realize that, but if you look it up, just like Bangladesh man-eating tigers, you're not going to believe how many stories you see. It's like all the time, like weekly or so. Like if you look up, 6 people killed by tigers or something like that, or maybe it was 8. But I got there the next week. So they were all killed in 1 week. That was 1 week. Oh yeah, it was like 6 or 8 killed in 1 week. So if you just web search that, and then you'll know that I landed the next week. It was 6 or 8, something like that.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
Like straight up. I found a guy that had just been attacked recently, and he, I did it, talked with him, and I got photos of him. It's on my website. You just look up my name, Michael Yon, and let's say Korans, as in the book Koran, Korans, and then tigers, just tigers, and then just web search that, and that story should pop up. The reason I put the Koran thing in there because a lot of the people that live in the Sundarbans are Muslims, and a lot are Hindus, and there's actually some Buddhists, I think, and maybe a few Christians as well, but it's mostly Hindus and Muslims, and that his village was Islamic. And anyway, he got, they attack you from the back, right? The tigers, they get you from this side, they get you from the back, right?
Oh man.
And so he had the marks on his neck, so the villagers will wear masks on the back of their head to confuse the tiger.
Nice.
Because the tiger wants to get you from the back. But the tigers, man, they're cats, they're smart, you know what I mean? So they figured that out, but the villagers will tell you they'll still get you, but it slows them down, and they might make a mistake, or you might see them in enough time, like this guy in his village, he's like, it had his head pinned to the ground, and the other villagers around him were trying to beat the cat off, and they finally did. But sometimes those tigers, like, you got to be gutsy if you're getting your brother out of that situation, because sometimes the tigers, they'll kill the people. They kill the rescuers too. They'll kill 2 or 3 guys at one time. They'll swim out to the boats and get the fishermen off the boats. This is straight up like Navy SEAL tigers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy shit. That is wild.
Man. So anyway, I was out there hunting cannibals and everything else.
And tigers. So what got you started? I mean, obviously, if you've been in SF, I mean, you're a different breed of guys. You obviously are a pusher of lifestyle, because you're not obviously not a couch potato. But what drove you? Was it the military training that drove you, that once you got out you had to do something that kept your excitement up, or what got you going?
It just kind of comes natural. I mean, ever since childhood, even in Winter Haven, I would, like, if Sheila's watching, every street that there is in Winter Haven, Sheila, if it's been there more than 20 years, you can rest assured I was on it. I mean, every little tiny street, all the way out, everywhere, every neighborhood, Janfield Village, Lawrence Villa, Juanita, Eloise, even the surrounding areas I was at, because I that's got to be like a couple 100 miles of roads. I don't know, but I'd take my bike and I would just go everywhere and just explore. That's when I was a little kid. So I always liked exploring. And then, in the culture that we come from in that part of the United States, it tends to be pretty pro-military, and my family as well. Like I got family in military right now, like Afghanistan. So I mean, we've got so after high school, that was the Reagan buildup years in the 80s, and they were allowing young people like my age to try out for special forces or SEALs and that sort of stuff. So right out of high school, I signed up when I was 17. I went to basic when I was 18, graduated at the top of my class, went to jump school, and then I went off to Fort Bragg to SF selection. But, you know, one of my friends, Scott Helvenston, I went to high school with him. He decided to go to SEAL route. I almost went the SEAL route, actually. It was a
I tried
decision.
as well. I got shut down because I have astigmatism in my left eye. They didn't care for it.
Yeah, got to have that eyesight. But yeah, my friend Scott, he went the SEAL route. He was the youngest SEAL ever at 17.
Wow.
A lot of people say, no way, SEAL, nobody can be a SEAL at 17. That's not true. They can web search that in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You'll see Scott Helvenston.
But yeah, my brother's currently serving. He's getting ready to retire. He was in 3rd Bat Ranger Battalion for many, many years.
Is he still in Ranger Regiment? I'm grabbing a water. Sorry. Is he still in Ranger Regiment?
No, when he went warrant officer.
I do water in a big way.
That's
when
right.
I'm not filtering it. When I'm not filtering it with my mobile filter, I still carry a water filter with me when I travel.
There you go. No, he was 3rd Bat for many years, and then when he became a warrant officer, they didn't have a slot for him, so they sent him to Big Army. So he's in Washington State now.
Oh, yeah. Of course, a lot of the Ranger stuff's for younger guys too, but they need old commanders. That stuff wears out your body.
It does.
A lot of the old Rangers and Green Berets and Delta guys, SEALs, they're limping around all over the place.
That's
carrying all that weight.
That's yeah. But tell me about You had mentioned something about Afghanistan the other day on your live feed. Tell me about what went on there. You got kicked out of Afghanistan when you were doing combat journalism?
Let's see. There was numerous things. I was contentious at times, but in reality, the reason. Okay, let's rewind the tapes and get this straight. This would have been 2010, right? And by the way, in 2011, General Petraeus invited me back, so I went back at his invitation, right?
Oh, nice.
In 2011. So, what happened is in 2010, you got to keep in mind the mindset that I'm in at this point. By 2010, I had already been in about 4 years of combat, and I mean straight up serious combat. You can look at some of my dispatches and photos and videos. People say war is 99% boredom and 1% whatever. I don't know what war they went to, because a lot of times it was 7 days a week combat. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, no
it wasn't
shit.
like it wasn't. Yeah, it depended on where I was. For instance, when I was out in Mosul in Iraq in 2005, that was a lot of combat, and then as well out in Anbar province and Nineveh, Diyala province in Iraq as well. Just in Basra, I'll give you an example. Down in Basra, one time I was with the British, and we did some big firefight, and I think we killed like 28 or something, right? And then the next day or two, we got into an ambush, and we lost 2, right? Big IED ambush, and then we got into some combat right after that as well. This is like 1, 2, 3 days. This is like, so that's like 30 guys dead in about 3 days. I mean, that was kind of normal. The reason I say that is because I actually published about that. And I was just in so much combat in Iraq and Afghanistan that by the time I got, my first trip to Iraq was 2006, and I stayed 8 months straight. And by the time that was finished, Bruce Willis actually asked to make a movie about my life. And I said,
oh,
no,
cool.
You should do it about this. He never did it. I never finished the book.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I'm not motivated by the things that motivate a lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people are like, why don't you stop what you're doing and go write that book? And, I thought about it. I had some problems with the Army as well, stealing some of my work. But anyway, long story short, I'm not Mr. Hollywood. I literally was and am still Mr. Combat. You know what I mean? I will go back to a war before I finish a book and have a movie made. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
That which is like maybe one person out of 10,000 would do something that silly, but I'd done it. repeatedly. Like when things are big and important, I will go into it. But the reason I actually went to Iraq was because my friend Scott Helvenston, that I mentioned earlier, the youngest Navy SEAL, he was killed in Fallujah in March 31st, 2004, right? And then another friend of mine, an old Green Beret friend, was killed the day before, and his name was Richard Ferguson. So I went to their two funerals in 2004, and then I went to Iraq in 2004 when I realized it was an insurgency. So by the time we get up to 2010, when I have the run-in with some generals, you got to keep in mind, I started in 2004. Now we're in 2010. And if you look at a New York Times article about my work, it says something like, and it was a quote from the Army, you'd have to look it up online, but it said something like I'd done more time in combat than any war correspondent in the war, or something like that, right?
Damn.
But it said that when I hadn't really gotten started yet. You know what I mean? I had done maybe only 8 months at that time. So that was in total maybe a quarter of what I shoot at this point, maybe 15% of what I've done. You know what I mean, at this point. So by the time when the New York Times wrote that, compared to what I've done now, that was probably 15% of what I've done, right? And at that point, they were saying I had already done more combat than anybody in the Iraq war correspondent, right? Something like that. You can see that. So what I'm saying is, let's get to my mindset. I had been in a lot of combat. It wasn't boring. I wasn't laying down in a tent reading magazines and books. I was out there in firefights, hundreds of firefights, IED strikes, so many, unbelievable incoming rockets and mortars, A-10 runs going all the time, Apache shooting the hell out of people, F-18s coming in, rolling in, F-15s, the whole works. I mean, the whole party was there, artillery shooting out, mortars, RPGs coming in, years of that, right? Now we get to Afghanistan, where I first went in 2006. So I started going back and forth between Afghanistan and Iraq. So I was like, Afghanistan, Iraq, fighting, right? Just a lot of combat. And then I went to Thailand fighting. So there was combat there, right? So I was in all these different places and really serious fighting, especially Iraq and Afghanistan, but actually quite serious in Thailand as well. A lot of fatalities in all places. So in 2010, we were about to go on a mission. I was in Kandahar, which is, the big city in the south there where we've got a huge airport. And we were doing a surge. This was 2010. We were bringing in more troops. Taliban was, I had already been warning about Afghanistan since 2006. When I first landed there, I was like, we got a problem. Houston, we got a problem. Look at my first, I wrote, 12 dispatches, I think, that year, saying that we're losing the war. That was 2006. Now, by 2009 and 2010, everybody's like, oh, we knew it all along. It's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. There was the media was almost all saying everything's going fine, or it's maybe not perfect. But I was like, no, I was straight up, we're losing, and I'm not bearing the bad news to bear bad news. I want to win. Mm-hmm. I mean, my family's in the military. My closest friends either are or were in the military. You know what I mean? My grandfathers fought in the Revolutionary War. I'm like, I got a Forrest Gump life insofar as, seriously, my family fought in all the wars. It's unbelievable. I mean, my mother's side came to America in 1609. You know what I'm saying? Wow. So, I mean, it's like, trace them back. They were shipwrecked on Bermuda and then they got Jamestown. Anyway, point is I wanted to win the war in Afghanistan or get out, one or the other, if we're not serious about it.
Yeah. What do you find? I always found that when I was in the military and stuff like that, didn't have near the experiences that you did, but it just seems like so much red tape. It almost makes you wonder if they really want to win or they just want to perpetuate whatever's going on.
I love special forces, but I absolutely hated the Army. And, it's like if special forces were not in the Army, I would have stayed in for like 200 years if they'd have let me stay in. You know what I'm saying? I was just I loved SF. But it was in the Army. You know what I mean? And, it's like, listen, you're in the Army. You know what I mean? So, especially when you hear that jet. There's a jet flying over. Anyway, if you hear any shooting in the background, it's fireworks because this is Chinese New Year's.
Oh, okay.
And
cool.
so they shoot a lot of fireworks, and they're not like small American little boy fireworks. These are man-sized fireworks. Huge. It'll be completely illegal in America. You're like, sounds like hand grenade firefights and stuff out there. It's just the neighbors. So it's unbelievable. Like rattles a window. So I was like, and so it brings out the boy in you, though. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so when it comes to why I got kicked out, it's a very interesting story. We were going to go on a mission, and I've published about this. I haven't published all of it because it's just so much, but I published a lot of it. So I was going to go on a mission in Kandahar, and I walked out of the chow hall that morning. It may have been, I don't know, 0700 or something. I remember it was very early in the day, and boom, very large. And I said, uh-oh, that sounded like a V-bed, right? Car bomb, right? Or a truck bomb or something. So I walked over to headquarters, and I was like, what happened? And I could see the mushroom cloud. It was in the distance about, it was pretty far away. It was about 3 miles away. And I could still see the mushroom cloud, which indicates it's quite large. And the sound was, heavy. And so even from 3 miles. And so I went over to the headquarters. I was like, what happened? There's nothing over there but the bridge. And they're like, oh yeah. They're looking at everything, drone and all that. And it's a Tarnak River bridge had just been hit. Right. And, with a truck bomb or a car bomb. I think it was a truck. It doesn't matter. And I said, wait a minute. How did a vehicle get on that bridge with a bomb? I cross that bridge every day. You know what I mean? It's like three layers of defense, like the guys with the machine guns, and then the guys with the machine guns, and then the other guys with the machine guns. How did they get through all those guys to get a vehicle bomb on the bridge? And one of our guys is now dead. His name was Yon Gillig, I believe, and he was trapped, and there were still others trapped in the MRAP because it blew the MRAP off the bridge, right?
Oh, no shit.
I'm like, how in the hell did that bridge get blown up? And our guys are now trapped in the MRAP. One's dead, and of course, we're about 3.5 miles away. And I said, well, are we going to go out there? And they're like, no, because the bridge got a big hole in it, and everybody's already responded to it. And I was like, they let the bridge, Tarnak River. If you look up Tarnak River Bridge, you'll see some things I wrote about it. And I was just like, well, that's unbelievable. I mean, that's a strategic bridge. It's Tarnak, Tarnak, Tarnak River Bridge. It's by Kandahar Airfield. And so I said, wow, that doesn't make sense. How'd that bridge get blown up? We need that bridge. That bridge is the southern supply route. It's a kneecap for our southern resupply efforts, right? Because the supplies from there were coming up. They were landing by ship in Pakistan. There was 4 major routes that we got stuff in, right? Like ammunition came by air, right? All munitions come by air. All that sort of stuff, anything classified, communications gear, all comes by air, right?
Right.
But a lot of the stuff like food and that stuff will come by ground. And it was coming either by the northern route, which is very far away, or, by air. And then by ground, there was a northern route in Pakistan. And then there's the southern route, which is that route. And so those are our arteries to get supplies. And for the southern route, there was just that one in air, right? And so basically it cut off almost all of our supplies, right, to the south. Mm-hmm. And right during a surge that we were doing. And I couldn't believe it. So I called the Air Force. I said, hey, look, you just had a bomb go off by the runway. I'm sure you know that. Because they, yeah. I said, hey, well, all missions are canceled. I was going to go on an infantry mission, actually, but it's canceled because we can't go to a bridge. I said, you got anything I can do with you? And they're like, yeah, we got something going on. Come on down. So we went on a mission that night, parachuted some supplies out to some special forces team. Actually parachuted ammunition. Normally you don't parachute ammunition because you can damage it, but we parachuted it. But they were getting in a lot of firefights. And that's why they needed emergency resupply. And so I come back the next morning and I'm strapped in an MRAP to go on a mission, and got these 4-point like racer harness seat belts with the thing here,
yeah,
and like old parachutes, and we're in there, and a message comes. We're in the back. I'm in the back with a bunch of soldiers. I'm just a war correspondent, so I just got my camera, and a message comes on the FIPR, which is the classified chat or email or text or whatever, right in front of the vehicle. He's like, hey, mission's canceled because there's a hole in the bridge. And I was like, they still got a hole in the bridge? So I popped out of this thing, and I said, I went to the headquarters, and I talked to Harry Tennell. He was the commander, Colonel Harry Tennell, the brigade commander. Excellent commander. He got shot up pretty bad in Iraq, but he had returned to combat. Now he was in Afghanistan. I said, Harry, he was the brigade commander, so he's a full bird colonel. I said, hey, Harry, what's up? I mean, that bridge is blown up still, and I mean, this is pretty serious. And I said, who's responsible for that? Is that 5-2, which is his brigade? And he said, no, it's that Canadian guy. I was like, that Canadian guy? You mean General Menard, the one everybody's always talking about? And I see all these screw-ups he does all the time. He's like, yeah, that's him. I said, I can't believe that. So I did some more research. Because keep in mind, the night that the bridge got blown up, or the morning that it got blown up, the night before it was the Olympic hockey, right, between Canadians and Americans, right? And there was Canadian flags all over that base. And General Menard commanded a lot of American troops, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is how I'm leading to how I got kicked out, right? So General Menard was out watching the hockey and stuff, right? He was watching the hockey game. It was all the Canadians like, yeah, they got these giant Canadian flags because they're nutso about hockey, and especially about beating Americans, right? And so, boom, in the morning the bridges got blown up, and then I do that mission with the Air Force to resupply, team, and then now I'm back again at the headquarters in Harry's, and I'm like, who's responsible for letting that bridge get blown up and canceling all of our combat, And he said, oh, it's that Canadian guy. He just said it like as an afterthought. So I did some homework, and I was like, holy crap, man. That guy was just out watching hockey all night. And then, a couple miles from his office, it was only about maybe 2.5 miles from his office or so, because his office was closer to it. And so I said, so I went on Facebook, I think, and I was like, the Tarnac River Bridge, that post is still on Facebook. Whatever I said, you can find it. So it would have been whenever the Olympic hockey was, about a day or two later, right?
All right.
So I got on Facebook, and I said something like, blah, 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 bridge is blown up. I didn't want to say anything classified at the time because, and so I didn't want to give any tips to the enemy, but I said, and General Daniel Menard should be fired, right? Which I'd never said something like that before. Keep in mind, this is his battle space. He was the commander of RC Kandahar, which was the regional command Kandahar, right? So he was, and that, people went really crazy. And keep in mind, just like, 48 hours before, I was flavor of the month with Canadians because I'd written some nice stuff about some of the stuff that some of the combat soldiers did and some other things. So I was getting other Canadians really loved it. And I was like, you're not going to love this. Your general needs to be fired. And keep in mind, he's super popular general in Canada, super popular, which I didn't know. There's some beauty in ignorance, because you'll just come up and say what children will say. You know what I mean? Yeah. Children will just come up and go, hey, you're fat, or something like that. You know what I mean? And, it's like, and it was the same, it's the same. I had that advantage of ignorance, right? Yeah. So I'm just like, and he needs to be fired. I didn't realize he's this young, handsome general, and everybody thinks he's going to be chief of staff one day. And oh man, this story becomes epic. You should see what happens. So I say, and everybody's like demanding that I apologize, and like, you're only attacking him because you're American and he's Canadian. I'm like, I don't give a crap where he's from. I like Canadians. I'm from Florida. Canadians came down all the time. They always treated me good. I love Canadians. And then I used to ask them 1,000 questions, like if they ever seen a polar bear. I'm from Florida. I was like 11 years old. I was like, I've asked 50 Canadians, and not a single one has seen a polar bear. I love Canadians, but I don't love, he just got one of our soldiers killed. Ian Gillig was his name. He's dead. And the other ones were wounded. There's a hole in the bridge. We can't do combat against the Taliban. And he's otherwise inept. There was other things going on that I had already heard about and knew about. I just didn't say them because there was a lot of war going on. You don't have time for every bug that hits the windshield. You know what I mean? Sure. And so people are demanding that I apologize. And at one point I was like, okay, I'll apologize. And I said, no, I'm not. Here's my apology. Like, I doubled down, and he needs to be fired because of blah, 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 blah. That's my apology, or my apologies, I didn't say it earlier or something. I don't know. But I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. But they're like, oh, you're only coming at him because he's a French speaker. And I was like, I didn't even know he's a French speaker until you said that, right? I didn't even know that. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what it has to do. I didn't know it at the time, but like a lot of militaries, like our own, there'll be internal politics, right? And then there's the politics between the French speakers and the non-French speakers in the Canadian. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Oh yeah. It's quite, there's a high voltage there, and they just assume that we know about it, which I didn't know about it. Right. Yeah. I didn't know. And so, but I know now. I got a firsthand lesson on that one. And so, sorry, I'm looking at my dog. Come here, Barney. And so, yeah. Oh yeah. That's a very political thing in France, with, Quebec wanting to split off and all these sorts of things.
That's crazy.
And also the Canadians often get jibed at for the French Canadians not being not as good at soldiering as the other soldiers. Now, what I just said would get you into a fight, right? But since it's just us podcasting, there's not a bunch of French Canadian soldiers around with baseball bats.
Yeah, no,
I mean, yeah, and people are actually telling me that you can find some of the comments probably on my Facebook. They're old from 2002, but people are like, "Yeah, you better be careful. There's French Canadians around there. If they see you, it'll be trouble." And I was like, is your army that undisciplined? You know what I mean? Seriously.
Yeah.
If you're that undisciplined that you got to worry about some French Canadian soldier shooting you or hitting you or something like that, then there's no way you can win this war. It's an insurgency. It's a straight up insurgency. And that's how we turn everybody against us, is like little terrorism, whether it's just verbal or, shooting somebody or whatever. It's just that sort of nonsense. And I was like, Canadian Army's not like that. I mean, there's always a one-off somewhere out there.
Yeah, there's a nut job in every
there's always that. But as a general rule, they're quite disciplined, as our Army, as a rule, is. But we know we're in. It's not everybody. And so anyway, so I left that base and I went out with some infantry unit in 5-2. I stayed with 5-2, and I was in a lot of missions for about the next maybe 6 weeks. And I had kind of forgotten about it, actually. So time went on, and then what happened? Then I get a message. I have to review my notes and message traffic and all that. But I got a message from the Army about my embed ending, and I was like, "Oh, it must be a mistake." So I messaged back. I was like, "Oh, it must be a mistake. We've agreed that I would come for at least whatever months it was, because I don't come for like 2 weeks. That's other people. I'm Mr. Combat. You know what I mean? You got Mr. Clean. I'm Mike Yon. I'm Mr. Combat. I just go and stick. I find the infantry unit that's in the most combat, and that's who I go to, and I stay with them, right? Yeah. And so I was like, no, we had an agreement that I'm, here to stay. It takes me a lot of investment every embed. You know what I mean? I upgrade my gear every time. I stop doing whatever I'm doing else, and then I go with this unit. I have to research them. It takes a lot of work. And so that's why I don't do these like 24-hour embeds that a lot of people do. So I was like, no, it must be a mistake. And I started emailing around to people, and they're like, nope, your embed's ended. And I'm like, okay, this is not a happy Mike. I mean, I'm out here doing missions every day, sleeping on the desert floor a lot of times, or in tents or whatever. And no, you're breaking our agreement. And so I'm starting to get upset. I'm like, why are you even wasting my time with this crap? Here's the agreement. Here's the email, traffic, blah, blah, blah. And they come up, sorry, embed's ended. So I was like, so I get on a helicopter. It took like 3 missions to get me back to Kandahar Airfield, right? So like 2 by land and 1 by air, right? And so these missions are dangerous, man. I mean, just to get me back to Kandahar was 3 missions. People were getting killed all the time, blown up. You don't want to just be moving around stuff for nothing. Yeah. You should have a reason that's not bullshit, So I land on the Black Hawk back to Kandahar Airfield, and I get off the helicopter. PA over here picks me up, public affairs officer. And I'm like, what's going on? And I go back to Harry and my friend Rob Prosser was the command sergeant major of 5-2 Striker Brigade combat team. And I was like, what's going on? They're like, I don't know. I said, they said, we wanted you to stay. And I said, I know. I mean, Rob's my good friend. I was in like 50 firefights with him in Iraq. He invited me here. And so I know he wouldn't kick me out. We're roommates and stuff. It doesn't make sense. And I was like, you think it's that Canadian general thing? And they're like, well, I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense. And I was like, well, that was like 6 weeks ago or something. I mean, maybe they're trying to just put distance between it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it starts to get interesting. Maybe they were just trying to, not connect it with that. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
I know it, but the world would go, no, it's for something else.
Yeah.
And they always come up with these excuses like, no, we don't have enough space for embeds. Now, for us on the ground, we know that's absolute complete bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, but for people back in America, they're like, yeah, they must be full in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? They just can't take another. They've got 200,000. Yeah, they got like 300,000 soldiers and contractors at the time or something like that, 300 or 400, I can't remember. It was a lot between soldiers and contractors. You're like, and you don't have space for one more, no, bullshit. I know it's a lie because I see so much bullshit. That's what I'm here to do, is find the truth and the lies, and you're lying. There's something you're covering up. And I haven't said another word about the Canadian. Maybe you're worried that I will, but I haven't said another. I didn't say a word about him because I was laying off. I didn't say a word about him because I had said my piece and I was finished. Yeah. And had they let it die there, he would have been fine. But what happens next ended his career. And he got reduced and ranked to colonel, and he ended up in jail. So this is this is good. This is a really wild story. I'm checking the battery here. Really wild story. So what happens is, so these two Canadian soldiers come up to me, right? And I was like, uh-oh, here we go. And they're like, hey, did you hear about the ND that Menard did? And I was like, nope, ND. ND is negligent discharge with your weapon, right? In other words, fired around when they didn't intend to. Negligent discharge. Old vernacular is accidental discharge. Yeah. But, pretty much every one of them is negligent except for maybe 1 out of 1,000 or something. You know what I mean? There are a very few accidents where weapon malfunctions or something like that. But anyway, they're like, he was getting on a Black Hawk with Americans with their Canadian like defense chief head, or it doesn't matter. But then he fired a couple of rounds out of a C8 rifle, which is like their M4, right?
Oh shit!
I was like, what? And I said, hold on. So you're telling me that Gerald Menard almost shot one of our Black Hawks with his rifle? I said, why do you have a rifle? He's a general, right? What's he running around with a rifle for? And they're like, I don't know. We don't know. And I said, I thought, are these guys trying to bullshit me? Maybe they're trying to get me to go, I don't publish any. Yeah, and then discredit me. Yeah. Even though I hadn't said a word about him probably for 6 weeks, I think you'd have to check the record and see if I'm accurate with that. I think I am. But, and I said, let me talk with you guys separately and you understand why, just in case. They're like, yeah, we get it. And I was like, okay. So I talked with both of them separately. And by the time I finished talking with the second guy, I'm like, they seem legit. Mm-hmm. Why would he? That's wild. And so, then you'd have to look back at all the message traffic on the internet that's public, but there's something they began attacking me again for some reason. And, what was it? Anyway, it doesn't matter, but it's a lot of, you can see a lot of it online. And so I made a public threat at one point, which you should never do, but like once in a blue moon, I'll do it. Like once in 5 years, I'll make an actual threat. Like, don't come after me or I'm going to get you, right? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which is like childhood things. You shouldn't do that as a grown adult. Right. And it was actually a mistake on my part because I was saying, leave me alone. Keep in mind, my mindset at this point is years of combat, years of seeing people get killed right in front of me, picking up body parts, loading up dead Americans and dead everybody else, right? And I'm not in a high sense of humor for generals or anybody else, right? And I'm still doing combat missions daily, right? And so I was just like, don't mess with me. This is not a joke. If you continue to attack me, I'm going to attack you, right? And I said that publicly somewhere, right? Yeah. And so it's out there on the web. You can find it. And I didn't say I'm going to attack you and imply physically or anything like that. I was just like, no, I'm going to do my magic. And everybody's like, oh, what's your magic? And I said, I'm telling you, because it was clear that it was coming from his office. I could see from my network and my being on the ground, I'm like, the attacks are coming from him. That is very clear. I don't know why he's got he's still, this like 6 weeks after, I think, initial of my saying he should be fired for the bridge. And I said, okay. Oh, I know what it was. How we got to this point was I heard about the rifle shots, and I went to Rob, my roommate, the sergeant major of 5'2", and I walked in. I said, hey, I just heard something from these 2 Canadian soldiers. They said that Menard almost shot one of our Blackhawks with his rifle. And I said, do you hear about that? And he goes, no, I didn't hear anything about that. I probably would have. He said, my buddy is, I said, your buddy is sergeant major over at the aviation, right? He said, yeah, you're right. And he said, yeah, why don't you ask your buddy? He said, he's on leave right now, but I'll ask him. And I said, okay, not a big deal. It's just these guys told me. I wasn't even looking into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I still wasn't looking into it. And this is what happened next. So I'm packing my bags to go live downtown in Kandahar. The Army thought I would just leave Afghanistan, right, and just leave. I guess McChrystal and the crew didn't realize that I had already spent like maybe 6 months or so traveling around Afghanistan alone without the Army, right?
Oh, shit.
So I was straight. Like I'd be out there and come across Marines or whatever, or Army guys or whatever, and be like, holy crap, you're Michael Yon, right? I was like, yeah. They're like, yeah, we got an intel report on a pre-mission briefing that you're out here to keep an eye out and see if you're, report if we see you. I'm like, here I am. Here, let's get a picture.
No shit.
Yeah. I'd be like, yeah. They're like, you're crazy, man. And you're out here alone. I'm like, no.
Oh, no.
Insane. I'd be like, you know what? All the time I spend in Afghanistan alone with these Afghan dudes, or often it's just Afghans, or sometimes just 1 or 2 other Americans, or maybe from another country. I never get shot at when I'm with them. I only get shot at when I'm with you. I only get bombed when I'm with you, right? I've never been shot at when I'm alone. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, because a lot of, war correspondents are getting killed and kidnapped out here, but it didn't happen to me. So, it was a little dangerous, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I was going to go stay downtown in Kandahar because I was being disembedded and I had to leave base, right? And a friend of mine that I went through special forces with, he had a business in Afghanistan. He built like the runway at Camp Bastion and stuff. We were in SF together. But I was going to go stay at his house downtown in Kandahar City, which is, so I'm packing my bags, and then I go to his office, and then there's, to get picked up by one of his people to take me there off base and downtown. And then I see a bunch of his guys in bandages on the office floor. I'm like, holy crap, what happened to you guys? They're like, we got hit with a truck bomb. I was like, oh crap. How many killed? They're like, 3 or 4 or something like that. Right. Something like that. I was like, that was like April 17th, 2010 or something like that. It was April 2010. You could find it online. It was a truck bomb downtown Kandahar. So if you web search, you'll find it. You'll know what I'm talking about. And you'll see how many were killed and all that. So I walk in, I'm like, wow, that's terrible. And I call up Steve, my friend. I was like, Steve, man, your house just got blown up. He's like, I freaking know. And I was like, in that case, can you send an airplane for me? Because he had a bunch of airplanes and stuff. I was like, can you send an airplane for me and get me out of here and get me up to Jalalabad, right? And he's like, yeah, I heard you got kicked out of by McChrystal or whatever. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm not leaving it. You know who I am. I'm disembedded. I'm not Afghanistan. The Army doesn't rule Afghanistan. Afghanistan's a sovereign nation. I've got a visa, right?
Yeah.
So he sends an airplane. But while I'm waiting for the airplane, that was when I said, I don't have anything to do. The house is blown up. It almost got me, because that was the house I would have been in just hours later. But it got hit by a truck bomb. So it got hit by a truck bomb, and I was like, man, the devil's, I had an idle mind. And so I said, what about that ND, that negligent discharge? And that was when I sent an email to Canadian Public Affairs, and this is what blew it up. I sent an email to Canadian Public Affairs, and you're the first I've ever told this in an interview, by the way.
Oh,
yeah. So I told them, I forked them, like I did a forking move, like in chess, when you threaten 2 pieces. So I sent a message to the American Public Affairs guy, was a major, and then to the Canadian, right? And then I'm looking at my battery over here. And then I look at and I did that. And I said to both of them, like, oh, and I emailed so-and-so. And I told him, I emailed so-and-so. Because they're less likely to tell a lie when they both know, unless they're the best buddies in the world.
Right.
They're probably not going to lie because they're going to be like, he might.
He's going to tell the truth.
The American major gets back like 30 minutes or something, which is normal. He's like, nope, haven't heard a word. He said something like neither hide nor hair or something like that. I was like, I believe him for various reasons. Canadian guy. It was hours later, like way late in the afternoon. I get an email. It's like, oh, the guy you need to talk with is gone on leave back to Canada. I was like, that's weird. That was a long delay. And then that was an extra delay because they don't need to wait for that guy. Mm-hmm. I ask a specific question, and they're clearly reading his email, right?
Yeah.
This is bullshit. This is a cover-up. I've been around the military too much. I don't need to see 50 tiger tracks to know there's a tiger there. I see one track. I'm like, there's a tiger at the end of this track. I've been around them enough. I've been, you know what I mean? Yeah. I've been around this enough. I know how they operate. And I was like, no. What's going on? And so the next thing you know, I start getting all this traffic. Like, why are you attacking General Menard? And I'm like, I'm not attacking General Menard. Well, you're doing a witch hunt for him that he shot his rifle and almost, whatever on the airfield. And I was like, I didn't say a word publicly. Yeah. I'd only told Rob Prosser, my roommate, the sergeant major, and then I forgot about it. Then the house got blown up, and then I didn't have anything to do because the house was blown up, and I was waiting for my friend's airplane to come get me, and then I just sent that email, and the next thing you know, it's in the Canadian news. And everybody's hitting me. Shit. So it was an attack. He was trying to get ahead of it, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, if he had been smart, he would have just played it out. They must have thought that, oh, I'm on to something. I really wasn't. And I really didn't give a shit. I had a big war to look at, right?
Yeah.
I didn't care about I only did that because they disembedded me, right? If they had left me in the field with infantry, it would have been finished. You never would have heard my name in Menard again, right?
Yeah.
It's another fly on the windshield, right? Mm-hmm. And then they disembed me. 3 missions. I get back to Kandahar Airfield. Then the house gets blown up with that truck bomb, which you can find on Google web search. April of 2010 in Kandahar City. But not a bunch, 2 or 3, 4 people killed, something like that. And then my friends destroyed the house. And so, and then I didn't have anything to do, so I sent that email, right? And I wasn't searching. Remember, 2 Canadian soldiers told me about it. Mm-hmm. And I'll never go public with something like that unless I really have the facts. I don't just willy-nilly throw hand grenades. That's what CNN does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm known for accuracy, and that's why I don't put out as much, because when you get my stuff, it's distilled. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
this is grain alcohol truth. You know what I mean? And so
might burn a little bit, but it might burn a little bit, but it's the truth, right?
it's not piss beer CNN stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so it's straight up. So it took me a while, but then when they started attacking me, I was like, wow, it's real. And why are they attacking me? Well, they don't know. I threw a rock into the bushes to see if there's a tiger there, and the tiger ran out. If the tiger had just hunkered down, if he just hunkered down and go, maybe he'll leave, I probably would have, because the airplane was coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then they started, I would have been off to Jalalabad because I went up there and was in other action, which was wild, but not yet. And so I would have been distracted. All he had to do was hunker down. But they started attacking me. And that was when I threatened. I was like, look, you're damaging my reputation. You're telling lies about me. And if you keep coming after me, you're not going to like it. You can find what I said. It was, it's on the net. And so, and everybody's like, oh, big boy, now you're threatening. And I was like, that didn't come out right. I screwed up. I didn't message properly. Yeah. How do I message that I will destroy you? And actually mean it. You know what I mean? So I said, okay. I was like, okay, you ready for this? Silence. He's having an affair with someone on his staff. And everybody's like, holy shit. My lawyer called me up within like 30 minutes or an hour. He's like, called me from America. He's like, his name's John Mason. He's like, Michael, what? I just saw what you said. You can't just say that. I mean, I've known you for years. I know you're not just pulling it out of the sky, but you're crazy. He can sue you. He's not an American general. British generals, Canadian generals, they'll sue your ass. And I was like, I know. Even if he would never sue me, I would not say it if I didn't have incredible evidence. I'm rolling my career and his career on the table at the same time. I would never do that. I would never just pull a pin and throw a grenade without knowing my target and where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, information's like a grenade. It hits them and it hits you. It's not a one-way street when you're doing it publicly the way I am. And which is why I do a lot of stuff not publicly. Yeah. But anyway, so everybody's going crazy. And everybody's like, Canadians are going crazy. He's like, he would never do that. He's this great general, he's a god, all this stuff. I'm like, he's this punk-ass general. He's Mr. Handsome guy running around. Everybody's like, look how handsome he is. He speaks French, whatever, dude. I'm telling you, he's incompetent as a military commander. He was watching hockey, let the bridge get blown up, and that's the least of it, right? That's just the stuff I can point to. Mm-hmm. He almost shot our helicopter, and he's the one that came out with that because they got out. He came out after I asked those two PAOs. He made a press release that he's launched an investigation against himself. Now, keep in mind the helicopter, because he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to launch an investigation against myself for the ND. He's showing me. But the thing is, he never did that. He launched the investigation. The afternoon that they were waiting. That was when they launched the investigation. So I emailed that morning, and then they did that delay where they launched the investigation, right? And then it gets in the news. We're ahead of it. See, we announced it ourselves. It wasn't this bad guy from Florida. Yeah. Florida man didn't do it. It was the French Canadian guy, right? And I was like, that was when I said, listen, man, leave me alone, right? That's when I threatened, and I finally said he's having an affair with somebody on staff, right? And everybody, my lawyer calls me, everybody's going crazy.
And you knew that.
Oh, dude. I know so much I don't say, you won't believe it.
Holy shit.
Dude. My contacts, dude. Once you do as much combat as I do, a lot of the combat soldiers will talk with you because they know I'm one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though I'm a civilian, they know where my loyalties lie. My loyalties lie in not getting your ass killed. My family and my friends are in the military, or were in the military, and will in the future be in the military.
Right.
And the U.S. and Canadians and British, right? And it's like I'm not going to let my friends and family and American supporters and the millions of people who are paying taxes and everything else, and their kids are over there. And if I see something like that and we got an incompetent general, I'm going to call it out. It doesn't mean I'm going to stay on him like a hound dog the whole time, right? Because sometimes I'll say my piece and that's it. And every once in a while I've hounded, right? And in that case, I did. And so, so I go back to Thailand and I start covering the fighting there, and it was really serious. I almost got hit with an RPG. It was like I did get shot. It was just a ricochet, though. It hit me in the leg here, but it didn't even bleed. But the guy beside me, right down the road from me, did get killed. It was a lot of firefights. So there was a lot of people didn't realize. They're like, "Oh, you're taking a break in Bangkok." I'm like, "Oh, hell no! It's firefights. It's like straight up combat." It was a couple thousand casualties. I mean, it wasn't like 20. It was like literally, you can look it up online. It was serious. Red shirts fighting and all that. IEDs, RPGs, automatic weapons, snipers. Oh, it was on, dude. And so I was distracted by that while they continued to attack me. I'm like, if you guys realized I was actually your friend before, and you created an enemy out of me, right? Right. By the things that you're doing. Now, if you just let me say what I said about that general and don't come after me with a chainsaw, we would still be, hey, I said my piece, I'm finished, right? And he can defend or whatever, but I've said my piece. But they continued to come after me. And so, and at some point I had said also McChrystal should be fired. right? And Stanley McChrystal was running the actual war, right? And I had specific reasons for that, which I laid out at the time, but I'm going to lay out more specifically in a future book. I've already written it, not the whole book, but those parts. It took a lot of research, but anyway, that's a whole side story. When I said McChrystal and Menard should be fired at the same time, so everybody's like, "Oh, you got PTSD. You're a dirtball." You know, if you're another guy that's got PTSD, which I don't, as much combat as I've done, I don't have it. Right? I'm drinking water, not alcohol, right? I don't, you know what I mean? I'm fine. But every time, it's funny, when you do something they don't like, even a lot of the American public, like Soldiers Angels, those pieces of trash that they are, I'll never support them again. They'll immediately come out and go, "Oh, you got PTSD, you know, you've lost everything, you've gone crazy." And it's like, wait a minute. Half the time you're raising your $20 million a year or whatever on, you know, "Oh, so-and-so's got PTSD," and all this stuff.
What is Soldiers Angels? I'm not familiar.
They were a good soldier support organization for a while. And then they lost. They just became, they were raising like $25 million a year. And then they started having wild parties and all this stuff with the money and stuff. Oh, yeah. They completely changed.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this real quick, because I
mentioned them because they got involved in the fight. They started supporting General Menards and General McChrystal. I'm like, you know what? You need to mind your Soldier Angel business. You know what I'm saying? You need to get the fuck out of my face. And people are like, you never curse like that. I'm like, listen, Soldiers Angels, you go take care of soldiers. I'll take care of the war, right? I'll do my part in the war, right? Don't get yourself involved in this. It's not going to play out for anybody, right? It's not going to work out well. Soldiers Angels started attacking me, right? Soldiers Angels started attacking. Oh, yeah, and they got a huge network. And every time Soldiers Angels was famous for going after people very vindictively. And before they know it, I got all this inside information on Soldiers Angels, you know, highly compromised at a very deep level, which I won't say how deep, but let's just say it didn't go well for Soldiers Angels either, right? They came after me. I'm like, you don't seem to know who I am, do you? I will penetrate your organization, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And I did, right? And I started publicizing things about, you know, blah, 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 and it really hurt them very badly. Their donations went down and their prestige just plummeted, right? I was like, Soldiers Angels needs to stick to raising their $20 or $25 million a year and going to your wild ass drinking sex parties that you got caught for and all this stuff. Yeah. You should have just stayed where you're at. Stay in your lane, right? Yeah. Leave me to the war court. Leave me to the combat shit. You stay out there raising money and having your parties, right? And so, they'll probably see this and threaten to sue me or may sue me. Go ahead. I just can't wait to really lay it all out on the table what I got. I love it. You see how I threatened Menard and he got fired? Well, anyway, and McChrystal, and he got fired as well, right? And so, long stories. They both got fired. And so if you look online, two big scalps for Michael Yon, you'll see the Telegraph, right? The Telegram writing about it, like headline, not headline, but big story. Two big military scalps for Michael Yon when they both got fired. Actually, McChrystal was fired because of something Michael Hastings wrote. But anyway, it's a long story. But anyway, long story short is, I'm at this point, I'd left Thailand. I'm down in Singapore, and a BlackBerry message comes in. There were still BlackBerries then. I don't know if there still are. And it's just from this Canadian journalist, and he's like, "Hey, General Menard just got fired." I was like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's flying back to Canada like right now as we speak with that corporal he was having an affair with." And I was like, "Oh, well." He's like, and that journalist, he's like, we get on the phone quickly. He's like, and he's got this deep, thick accent. "I thought you were just attacking him because he is French Canadian and all this." I'm like, "No, man, I love Canadians. You guys don't get it. I'm from Florida. Canadians come down to Florida since I was like a little kid. They always treat me good and give me like ice cream and stuff. You know what I mean? I've been bribed. I love Canadians. You know what I mean? Yeah. They've always treated me good ever since I was a kid. If I'm going after a Canadian, there's going to be really special cause. I'll go after an American for much less cause than I will a Canadian. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's like going after your neighbor. You know what I mean? I got a extra safety latch before I do that, and they had clicked that safety latch. And so he did get fired, and he got sent back to Canada, right, with the corporal. She's married, he's married. And so then he gets found guilty of the negligent discharge. He did fire 2 rounds, which you can find online. He got fined. And anyway, for the affair. Okay, you know what's funny? What's bad is for the letting the bridge get blown up and general military incompetence. Nothing happened to him. Nothing, right? Like he didn't. No investigations, no nothing. It's okay to be incompetent and lose your part of the war, no problem. But and shoot our helicopter, hey, no problem. He didn't actually hit the helicopter, but almost did, according to anyway. So, but have sex with your corporal, dude. He got reduced in rank to colonel, so got kicked out of the Canadian Army. So listen how he ends up in jail. So he ends up. Oh yeah, you can't make this shit up, man. And so he ends up over in everything I'm telling you, man. You can like watch this several times and check everything I'm telling you. You'd be like, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. It's like a big fish, but it's all true. So he ends up gets a job for this company called Garda World, right? Which is a pretty famous company. They show up on my reports all the time. Like I got one today about them. It's called Garda World, Garda World, right? They're like, they do security and that sort of stuff, intelligence, that sort of thing. But so he's working for them, and he then leaves Canada, and he's got a place in Dubai or whatever. And so he's off back in Afghanistan, and he gets arrested by Afghan authorities. He's got weapons in his trunk. So he went to jail in Afghanistan, not even Canada, man. So he's in jail in Afghanistan. Yep. And then actually I came out and defended him then. So I was like, all that for just, if you just left me alone, leave me be when I told you, nobody would ever known about the affair. Nobody would ever know about the rifle. Nobody would ever know about any of that stuff. It would have been like dust in the wind. Like I saw so much of that stuff in the wars, and I'm just like, on the CNN scale or on the other scales or on the, tabloid scale, that's big news. For me, I'm in combat. I'm out here watching people get their legs blown off. I'm here, watching, A-10 strikes like 5 today or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, that's small fry to me in that environment and in the context of what I've been doing for years, which is combat, right? That's small fry for me. It was a distraction. I didn't want anything to do with it, but I didn't want him there losing the war either. Right. So all that happened because he basically
he turned his sights on you. Yeah, he turned his sights on you.
Yeah, he did, which he shouldn't have done. If they would have stopped and let it die, I would have been like, oh yeah. If you'd have bring it up to me now, I would just be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah, but now it's bigger. Now the story just got retold again, right? It's the Streisand effect, right? It's like, like I wouldn't be telling you the story right now if they didn't keep kicking me. Right?
Kicking you and kicking
they didn't realize. I was like, you don't seem to realize why I'm so good at this job. Intelligence, right? And I don't mean smarts. I mean, the first thing I do is work out networks, right? You know what I mean? And I'm quite well known. And so when people see me in a battle space, you got to keep in mind, people like Menard always have enemies. Like Soldiers Angels is an example. And there's some others. There's other people that have attacked me, and every time they attack, that happens every day, but most of the minnow attacks. But if they're sufficiently damaging because of their stature or position or whatever, I'm never the only one they attack, right? Like as a writer, you get attacked a lot, right? Just like just elected officials get attacked a lot, journalists get attacked, writers like me get attacked. And 999 times out of 1,000, I don't even respond at all. I probably don't even see it, Right. And so, but when somebody big like Soldiers Angels is using their platform, and they've got all these huge numbers out there, people like that, they always have enemies in their camp every single time, whether it's legal fights that I've been in for this, that, and the other, and always prevailed. Because I won't fight it unless it's a good fight. I won't fight a bad fight. You know what I mean? I won't fight worse. I won't fight a fight that I'm not in the right. If there's any question that a reasonable person would look at this and go, no, you're not in the right, then I won't actually fight it. Right. So if you ever see me in the future fighting somebody, you'll know that there's some story behind it. But anyway, so that's what happened. I mean, when McChrystal started attacking me and his staff, and when Menard started attacking me, And Menard was because I initiated contact on him, right? And I also initiated contact on McChrystal, which I normally hadn't done up to that point in the wars, right? Normally, I didn't like go after them first, you know, but I wanted to win the war very badly. And McChrystal was ineffective he was running the war. He was the ISAF commander, right? He was in charge of the entire Afghanistan war and the entire coalition, right? All about 40 nations involved, right? And then Menard, he was a 1-star general. He was in charge of that one battle space down in the south, RC Kandahar, Regional Command Kandahar. But so they both had enemies within their camps who supplied me with, you know, just so much ammunition that I've never used. I've got whole warehouses full of information ammunition. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah. And people start to realize that at some point, like Soldiers Angels, you know, they're threatening all this. I'm like, come on, sue me. I mean, if you sue me, then this is going to be big press.
It's fair game now.
It's going to be big press, and then everything's going to be in Discovery on your side and on mine, and I play a clean game, right? And I mean, one thing I don't say, because threatening somebody is illegal, right? Well, it depends on how you do it. I mean, not physically threatening, of course, but I mean, basically, like telling Menard to leave me alone, you know, or I'm going to come at you. That, I mean, and not in any way implying physical, of course, but right. We're going to have a cyberspace battle war. You know what I'm saying in words. That's not illegal, but to say, you know, I'm going to get you and I'm going to sue you, that's different. That's quite illegal. You can, I mean, you're going into that. That's why, though, I always save a lot of information in the background. So when they continue to attack, I just keep pumping it out. And they're like, where does it get this from? And the thing is every time that you counterattack, more information comes. You see how it plays? Yeah. So it gets bigger and bigger. My warehouse of ammunition grows the longer the fights go on. More people see it. More people go, hey, I remember that. Yeah. Here. Hey, here's in the, you know, you literally get some computer files, like their entire files or whatever. And you're like, whoa. That would be illegal if I asked somebody to do it. But if it just, if somebody sends me somebody else's files, I mean, and I don't ask for them and they're not classified, you know what I mean? It's like, then it's a different story. Then it's like, well, what is this? You know, let's check it out. Oh my gosh, what's this? Nobody told me about that. You know, start checking out. Holy crap. Well, I mean, because that's legal, because it just came to you without any asking anybody, but that always happens. So you got to keep that in mind. If you get in fights with somebody, there's always somebody that hates you, and whatever they know is bound to get out.
Yeah, you got to be careful, because, you know, you can rub people the wrong way and that you don't even realize it. Well, some people do realize it. They just don't care, but you know, you just got to be careful in that stuff. I want to backtrack on one thing, because if I don't do it, I'll forget it. And you've been in combat, tons of combat, and not only in the military, but combat journalism. But going back to the,
I wasn't in combat in the military.
Oh, really?
I didn't do it. I didn't do any combat on active duty.
Really?
I did tons as a war correspondent. Tons.
Man,
I never called myself a journalist, but I did tons as a war correspondent. Yeah,
correspondent. Tons. Okay. But you've been in the mix. You've been around.
The reason I don't call myself journalist, by the way, is because I do things that journalists should never do. Right. And so when people go, journalists shouldn't do that or whatever, journalists shouldn't have an opinion or whatever, I say, that's good. Maybe they shouldn't. I'm not a journalist. Have a nice day.
You're a correspondent. There you go.
Yeah. But I have opinions. And after you've been out long enough, sometimes your opinions are actually quite valuable. I mean, that's why you ask, like, right now we got this disease coming from China. You know, when we're talking with epidemiologists now and that sort of thing, I've been emails. I mean, I want to hear their opinions about stuff. I know they don't have enough facts yet. You know what I mean? And they know that. But so when you're asking, it's like, I need your professional opinion based on your experience. What do you think, you know, is going on? And like, for instance, the cover up with Menard watching the Tiger track, you know, when they just delayed for a few hours in the context of everything that was going on, that was highly abnormal. And then the response was highly abnormal. Now, in other contexts, you'd be like, what's abnormal about that? I'm like, well, I did it for years. I've been operating with them for years. And in that context, it's extremely abnormal. So anyway, that's why I call myself a correspondent.
But my question is, and this is a touchy subject. I've actually rubbed people the wrong way, but I have questions. And this is more of an opinionated questions. I know that you won't have facts on this, but you'll have a strong opinion. Do you think they have made a big business out of PTSD.
Yeah.
You know,
I've published about it. Absolutely. I've published about it.
Because there's people that'll say, oh, I have PTSD, and you find out what their MOS was, and you're like, well, what did you didn't do anything to create?
Oh my gosh. My gosh.
And my brain
oh yeah
starts exploding. But if you question anybody on it or don't agree with them, now you're the asshole. Because
then they're like, oh my gosh, you questioned whether or not he really has PTSD when he never saw combat. I've had to deal with that numerous times. There's one in particular, this really very terrible person who retired from the military in Texas. And every time he gets cornered up, he'll go, I got PTSD. Yeah, that's what he does every time. He's one of those guys that carries rifles into Starbucks and stuff. You know what I mean?
Are you serious?
It's like I'm super pro Second Amendment. Like, I grew up with guns. I don't know life without cats, dogs, guns, and squirrels and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know life without. I was a special forces weapons specialist. You know what I mean? I keep a kukri on my desk. You know what I'm saying? Literally. And so, I mean, I'm very familiar, very comfortable, and very supportive of Second Amendment. But it's really nutty to start carrying shotguns into Walmart, even if it's legal, Waffle House, or whatever. It's crazy. It's because look at the environment that we're in. This is not 1912, right? Yeah. And now in my hometown growing up, when there would be kids bring guns to school and leave them in the parking lot in the truck, right?
Yeah.
Like in the pickup truck, it'd be like rifle or shotgun. It doesn't matter. It's on school grounds. Just leave it out in the parking lot. It's cool. Yeah. But the school shooting thing wasn't a big deal. It wasn't happening. And so but now a lot of people are afraid. And so, what happens is I remember, let's go back to smoking. When I was a kid, I was really into health and stuff. Like right now I'm fasting. I haven't eaten in almost 4 days right now, actually.
I saw that the other day. It was crazy.
Stuff. I'm fasting. I still haven't eaten, right? So I haven't eaten one bite of food since 2:23 in the morning on 22 January, right? Something like that. Mm-hmm. 2:23 is a coincidence, by the way. I didn't do that. You probably get what I'm saying by 2:23. Yeah. It's just a complete coincidence. When I checked the time, I was like, it's 2:23. Anyway, some people get it, some people won't. But it doesn't matter. But that was complete coincidence. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I was really into sports and health and stuff like that, and it really helped me out when I got to special forces because I was very fit, and then you ain't gonna make it if you're not. Mm-hmm. So people would smoke. That was back when people could smoke in elevators and stuff, right? Yeah. Not that there's a lot of elevators in my hometown, but they could smoke everywhere. Like, it's smoke in restaurants and stuff. And I'll just be like, hey, please, I'm like 10, 11, 12 years old. Please stop, and they're like, what? Shut up, kid. We got a right to do what we want to do. And I remembered that, mm-hmm. As I got older, and they're starting to pass legislation about you got to smoke, 5 miles from the nearest building or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm like, good.
Yeah.
Because that stayed with me since I was a child. All those smokers who talked down to me and mistreated me by saying, can you at least open the window? You know what I mean? Like, no, it's not going to hurt you. It's just secondhand smoke. Those studies don't mean anything. I'm like, well, it means something to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm just a little kid. So then when it comes time now, and smokers were like, now they treat us like whatever. And I'm like, I remember how you treated me. Yeah. And this is called revenge, right? And it's very serious. Now think about that in relation to guns. Today, I'm a huge Second Amendment supporter, and I know there's a lot of kids out there who are with their soccer moms or whatever in Starbucks or whatever, and these guys are coming in with shotguns, and they're intentionally frightening them. It's very clear from the videos. It's very clear from the videos they post themselves. They'll come out, there was like 20 guys with shotguns and AR-15s and stuff out in front of a coffee shop, and they're like, oh, all the soccer, they'll actually, call them soccer moms. They're in there, they're afraid, and all. I'm like,
why
this is
that
unbelievable.
pot?
Yeah, they're like, but it's perfectly legal. It's perfectly legal to do this. Yeah, it is. It's perfectly stupid. They're teaching their children the way I was taught about smoking, right? Yeah. Now I'll get a lifetime of revenge against smoking. You know what I mean? I don't care what law they pass. And tobacco growers and Georgia and North Carolina and South Carolina and all that, they're like, it's destroying our business. I'm like, grow okra. You know, one of my uncles became super rich off of tobacco subsidies and all this other crap. Anyway, I don't understand. That was years ago when I was a little kid. But anyway, I mean, it's like, I'm glad he got rich, you know, and all that. But I mean, but at the same time, it's like the world's not going to end if you grow something else, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and so likewise, we can lose our Second Amendment if the electorate, you know, the population is always changing and morphing.
Sort of like in Virginia right now.
Yeah, exactly. I almost flew over there. But I watched it. I watched the whole live stream. But I mean, and it was so peaceful. It was actually great. They were waving a Hong Kong flag for one of the guys. I loved it. And the Hong Kongers loved it too. But they're teaching the kids to fear them. They're teaching the kids like, oh, you're bullying me. Like the smokers bullied me, right?
Right.
And then when I got older, and I became a writer, and why don't you write something about why they're mistreating, they're invading our rights? I'm like, screw your rights, man. When you had the right to smoke where you wanted to smoke, you would blow smoke literally in my face, right?
Right.
And so you have a right to go smoke outside. Have a nice day, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to guns, rubbing it in people's faces like that, it's going to backfire on us. Yeah. And this is one of those idiots that does that. And every time you get him trapped up, his name is Grisham. He's run for office a couple times. He's been arrested numerous times. He got fired from his job after he threatens me for just saying this. He's studying law right now to become a lawyer so he can do his own lawsuits, right? And so he literally, you can see his photos all over the internet. But one night he took a bunch of Boy Scouts on a lake in Texas. Where he worked, he had the keys to the kayaks at the recreation center when he was still in the Army. Mm-hmm. And he took them out there he took Boy Scouts out on the lake with no lights, right? So he's out on the lake with these boys, and there's like power boats on that lake. You know what happens.
Yeah.
And so luckily nobody was killed. And why was he out on a Boy Scouts on the lake at night anyway? You know what I mean? Yeah. With no lights. And so he got fired. He got fired the next day. And again, I got inside information. I got, documents and stuff people sent to me. And, I was like, here it is again. The guy's always out there. He'll come online and he'll be like, oh, you're in Asia. You must be a pedophile. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? It's like, and just like, it's like, where do you come up with this stuff? You know what I mean? Yeah. But he's the kind of guy that carries his shotgun and AR-15s and all this. Carries them into Starbucks, carries them into Walmart. And
but you would think if you're going to, if you claim PTSD, you wouldn't want to claim PTSD if you like to carry your guns, because that's what they're trying to create all those red flag laws over.
Oh, and as soon as you block him up, he'll go, I got PTSD. That's right. He just did it the other day when I did an interview, or about maybe a month ago or 3 weeks ago or something. I don't know. I did an interview on American Thought Leaders, right? Which is a really great show, by the way. American Thought Leaders. Their last interview was with General Spaulding yesterday. He's a retired brigadier general. He wrote a book called Stealth Wars. But they interviewed me there, and it aired about, I don't know, say a month ago. Mm-hmm. And Grisham comes up, and he's making all these comments, and he's still there, man. After he started in 2010, this is 2020. He still comes on, like, when he sees me in interviews, and he starts writing to people, and it's just complete psycho. But every time you push him up into a corner, like I caught him in stolen valor as an example. He was telling people for years that he got a Bronze Star with V, which he did. I've got the citation right here in my office. He was telling people that he got a Bronze Star with V, with valor, for wiping out an entire Iraqi squad with nothing but a pistol and a hand grenade, right? I'm like, I've seen shitloads of combat. I've never seen anything close to that, right? And he said he did it all alone. I'm like, Now that might sell well with civilians.
Yeah.
But if you actually did that, you wiped out an entire Iraqi squad. He told journalists this, it's published. You wiped out an entire Iraqi squad, he said, with nothing but a pistol and a hand grenade, and there's no witnesses, right? I'm like,
then how are you going to get your Bronze Star with V if you got no witnesses?
Yeah, no witnesses. Exactly. And so, exactly, dude. it gets even worse. It gets worse. It's like that Gerald Menard thing. It gets worse. And so I get his Bronze Star with V, Freedom of Information Act and all that. I get it. And the general had actually signed it 2 days before the period. It was one of those period ones, where it's the cookie cutter. Yeah. Like this is for actions between X date and X date. Mm-hmm. it's one of those, like, everybody in the unit gets a medal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning of the war when that was. It's one of those medals, one of those fake. It's real, it's authentic. It really came from the Army.
Yeah.
But it's counterfeit. I mean, it's as good as counterfeit.
It's like a Navy
authentic It's like authentic counterfeit, right? so and the general, I'm looking at, I'm like, the general signed it 2 days before the period. It doesn't mention anything about some Iraqi squad. It's just like stuff. It's general cookie cutter stuff.
Yeah.
And so then I started hitting him on it. He's like, so what he would do is he sets up these straw man fake accounts, and he'll say, oh, I've seen the whatever the form is called, and I've tried to get it. I've read it. He really did do this thing, and I'll be like, send it to me. And everybody, like, he was just doing this the other day on that, or about a few weeks ago on American Thought Leaders. You can look it out in my interview on YouTube, right? And we were talking about the insurgency in Hong Kong and Poland and stuff. But he started saying that, and I said, "Oh, you're the stolen valor guy," that sort of thing. And he's like, he's like, "No, And then he's got this sock puppet account right beside him, going, "I read it," and I'm like, "Well, send it to me." It doesn't exist. I would never say that you're doing stolen valor, because if you did not do it, because that is defamation, and you could sue me for everything I own and things I haven't earned yet.
Yeah.
People don't realize that you can lose, like, a defamation suit for, say, $10 million, and you got, like, only small part of that. They'll be garnishing your wages until
forever.
It's paid. It can be, it's no joke.
Selling.
And like military pensions as well.
Yeah.
I went to 2 lawyers because I was thinking about going after him and some others, and I was like, they're not rich as far as I know. They got military pensions. They're retired. Both lawyers, they're like, "Oh, military pensions, that's too easy. That's like picking apples." I mean, because once they can't run from you. A lot of times when people lose lawsuits, they can hide their wealth and you can't quite get to it.
Sure.
But if they got like a military pension or something like that, and people are asking me, "You would really do that to a veteran?" I'm like, "Oh yeah. Are you kidding? I'm a veteran. Are you joking?" Actually, yes, I would, in a heartbeat. Defamation is very serious business. It damages people. It damages me. It damages everybody that it happens to. A lot of people are like sticks and stones. I'm like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
What do you think?
I've asked numerous people, the sticks and stones crowd. It's got to be somebody with wealth. I'll say, all right. Sign a release that I can say anything that you want about you, and you'll never sue me, right? I can do any kind of information operation about you. I can do anything to you that I want. I can penetrate your organization or your family or whatever, and I'll just start. I'll find some dirt on you, or I might do some just photoshopping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I will destroy your life.
Well, that's why I wasn't
nothing but my computer screen.
That's why I wasn't upset with Jesse Ventura for defending his name if he felt like he was being, I don't know if it was true. I don't know anything about that case, but he tried.
I wasn't upset with him either. That became a Seal versus Jesse Ventura thing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't upset with Jesse Ventura either, because defamation is defamation.
Yeah.
If you have to resort to defamation to attack somebody, you probably shouldn't be attacking them. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Unless you know the facts are involved, like everything that I've said about Grisham in this, or Soldiers Angels, if they sue me, is all true. And then there's like 8 tons behind me that I haven't said, and a lot that's never been released, and I'll just start flowing it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'll make a big series of stories. Soldiers Angels is suing me now, and here's the reason. And here's the time that they bought those T-shirts from the family member. And you're like, what? Bought T-shirts? Yeah, that's right. They were taking all these donations and buying products from one of the family members of the founders of Soldiers Angels. That's right. And they're like, you can't say that. And I'm like, it's not defamation if it's true. And it's true. And I would have never known that because truth is, in the United States, it's a end game against defamation, except in very specific cases, for instance, for people who are not public figures or whatever. Like, you can't just start writing stuff about your very private neighbor. Even if it's truthful, and you start writing stuff about him or her.
Business. Yeah, if he's over there.
Yeah, he's not a public figure. And you start, now that's a different story. But in a case like this, it's not. I mean, gone through the lawyers to.
Yeah, when you're a corporate information, yeah.
But yeah, but he uses the PTSD card, and so did Soldiers Angels. They're like Soldiers Angels would use PTSD to raise money, and I wrote a dispatch. I wrote a long story about it, and you look at some of the comments and some of the messages that came into. It's still online. It's called Sergeant Godsmack, and Sergeant Godsmack and Sergeant Godsmack something. But you find that and web search my name and PTSD. It's a very long, well-researched article on PTSD and on people using it for things that are just to get a pension, as an example. Yeah. I mean, because you can get a disability pay for it. Now, obviously, PTSD is very real. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, if anybody should have it, it should be me, but I don't have it. Probably because I don't drink alcohol, I don't do drugs. And when I would take big breaks from the wars, like I'd do shitloads of combat, I would just go up to Nepal and walk up to Mount Everest or whatever. You know what I mean? And spend, walk 200 or 300 miles. I didn't climb Mount Everest. I just go like base camp, walk Annapurna or whatever, go to Indonesia or something, and just go for a long walk, be out in the sunshine every day, and then I go back to combat, right? Yeah. But the thing is in the United States, PTSD, fewer than 1% of the people who suffer from PTSD got it from combat. The vast majority got it from things like domestic abuse, rape, car accidents, fires, people that thought that who had almost terminal illness, like say cancer, and they thought they were going to die, and they got lucky and didn't die, or for some reason didn't die. Those are the bulk of the causes of PTSD, right? And then you see people come up and they use it as an excuse. Hey, I'm just acting crazy because I got PTSD. I'm like, okay, so you robbed the bank and you want people, I'm just using this as a wild example. Yeah. So you robbed the bank and you want people to let you off the hook because you were in some war. Okay, I was in a lot of war. And if I rob a bank, I deserve to go to prison, right? And all these veterans I know that were also in a lot of war, if they rob a bank, they also deserve to be in prison. You shouldn't be given a special out because you're a vet for robbing a bank, right? Mm-hmm. And then they'll throw the PTSD card. But it's like, listen, think about this for a minute. You're standing in front of a judge and a jury, and you're caught on the videos, fingerprints, dyes all over you. You robbed the bank, and you're like, I did. I robbed the bank, right? But I got PTSD. And then the prosecutor and whatnot's like, how'd you get PTSD? You're like, oh, a car accident. Car accident. That made you rob a bank? You know what I mean? But if you say it was combat, they'd be like, oh, combat. Well,
they play off sympathy, yeah.
That shit just makes you rob banks. It's like no, it doesn't. You know what I mean? It doesn't. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm using the rob banks thing as an example. I don't have any specific cases. Yeah,
but it is that ridiculous. And I ask you that because I like to ask people that I know have been in stressful situations of that nature because I've heard it for years. It got to the point where, and this is where I've rubbed people wrong, is I was like, if I hear one more freaking person tell me they got PSD, I'm going to have PTSD. You know what I'm saying? Because
I know it.
So damn, I'm going nuts over it.
My gosh. I know what you mean.
And I know
what you mean.
There's a couple things I support.
Because it is a real, very damaging reality that actually happens. But I strongly think most people misuse it, or they mislabel themselves because they got some other thing going on and like, well, it has to be PTSD. That'll get me,
it's a disservice. It's a disservice to people that have it.
That's, like you say somebody's an alcoholic and they'll go, oh, it's because they got PTSD. They don't take into credit it was an alcoholic before that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, or that sort of thing. And
or he went in the army and he went crazy because he was in the army. No, he was just crazy shit in high school. Yeah,
exactly. And so it's that sort of stuff. And we all know. I mean, you've been around in the military or around the military enough; it's quite obvious. But yeah, it's clearly misused, and also it's incentivized now because you can get a pension for it. You can get disability for it.
And I used to know a bunch of people that they were looking for that 10% disability because they did a lot of jumps in jump school or whatever, and their lower back was sore, so they go down to the VA. I need 10% or whatever, and just trying to get anything and everything.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. But the PTSD is highly incentivized, and it's a very real thing. We know that. I mean, if you get trapped in a burning vehicle after an IED, which I've seen that happen, people screaming and burning to death.
Yeah.
The people that survive, I mean, would they get PTSD? Maybe some everybody. Like I've read a lot of books on PTSD, loads of articles. I know a lot of people that have it. I know a lot of people that did a huge amount of combat like me who don't seem to have it. And I've talked with a lot of psychologists over time. It is a very real thing, and everybody can get it. Everybody has a point, right? That you'll break. Everybody's legs will break at some point, right?
Sure.
But you can do things to strengthen them. You can do things to try to avoid it, right? But yeah, they if you read some of the comments on my article about Sergeant Godsmack and PTSD, you'll see mental health experts saying this is the most accurate portrayal I've seen of PTSD in the current situation in the United States. Now, in other countries, it'll be different because it's not incentivized. Like here in Thailand, it's not incentivized to have PTSD, right? It's just like, now I see over in Hong Kong, Hong Kongers are always come up to me, oh, we're worried about PTSD. And I'm like, I'm trying to get them in the right frame because they're fighting a lot. There's a lot of them getting hurt, a couple thousand injuries. I mean, I've seen huge amounts of injuries right in front of me. Police beating the crap out of people. I mean, you might have seen some of my videos where I'm having run-ins with the cops and all that. But they, and I'm saying, what I strongly believe that we will live up to expectations, right? That's part of how we get to these situations, right? Not all. I mean, because there's some this is a very serious art and science. Nobody has gotten to the bottom of PTSD. And I'm not an expert. I just know I've read many books about it. I know a lot of people with it and that sort of stuff. But I strongly believe, based on experience, that a lot of it is based on expectation. Like, oh, he went off to war and then he got PTSD. Because then you come back and you're the vet with PTSD, right? You're the guy that you get away with everything because, oh, it's that vet again. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, whereas there's other guys that come from a different background, like me. I don't want to come back and be that vet that's always in trouble and, getting in. No, I want to be the guy that came back and is a pillar of the community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I don't have PTSD. I'm fine. I, don't do things that will exacerbate any stresses. And so that's what I'm telling the Hong Kongers. Like, if you build this expectation that all these young kids are going to get PTSD, you're like, I think you're cattle herding them into it.
Yeah.
I think they'll live up to that expectation.
Yeah, you're perpetuating
which is a bad expectation. Live up to the expectation that, look, we're going to do something about it and we're going to beat it. We're going to beat this thing. We're going to go for walks every Sunday. We're going to walk, y'all go to church or whatever, because churches are big over in Hong Kong. Do whatever you're going to do. And then, just walk in the sun. It's important to be in the sunlight. It's my experience. Go out in the sunlight, just walk till you're really tired, talk all the time. Go have a good dinner and go to bed.
I really hate that it's going on like that in Hong Kong. Last time I was in Hong Kong was in 1994, right before the turnover. We were the last battle group that was allowed to go through there. And so it was pretty wild. It was a very interesting city. And that was
1994. Yeah.
We were on our way to the Middle East for the, it was Gulf War, but it was, they called it, they just changed the name from the Gulf War to Desert Shield or something like that.
Oh, right. Yeah. So, and Desert Storm and all that. Yeah, that was the first Gulf War.
Yeah,
I didn't go to that one.
Yeah, so it was.
I only go to insurgencies. That's why I went to Hong Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a wild city. It was a great city. I mean, it was a lot of. Wasn't there long enough. We were there for just under a week, so I didn't get to really see everything. Plus, I was a young kid. I think I was 19 at the time. So, at 19-year-old, your eyes are this big. Seeing all that.
What an experience!
Stuff. Yeah,
Navy's cool like that. Navy's cool. You get to go out and come out in some place where there's headhunters or something. Not Hong Kong, of course.
Yeah.
Hong Kong is one of the most civilized places I've ever seen, actually.
Yeah, so
very, very civilized.
I'd love to go back, but I'll definitely wait until they get through playing and get through with all they got going on right now.
Yeah. Oh, which wraps back to the the Chinese flu or whatever we want to call it. I'm not going to call it the coronavirus because that's China's trying to message this away from them. It's like, listen, y'all seem to have covered it up as you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, which allowed it to listen to the epidemiologists. They're like, that's like your golden hour, so to speak, or maybe golden days when you got a chance to contain. You got to jump right on that stuff. You know what I mean? You can't cover it up. It's not going to you got to jump on it like crazy, or the fire's too big and we can bring in all the tankers in the world. Australia's burning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
it's like, it's and this thing now with, look at all the flights, like look at flight radar. I was just looking at that a couple of days ago because I look at flight radar 24.
Oh, it's just like,
yeah, that's your vectors, that and trains. I mean, you know, and boats. And I mean, this disease is now global. You know, it's leapt everywhere.
Yeah, that's good. And so all it takes.
So now a lot of people, they'll make comments. They'll go, well, we lose, 67,000 for flu in like 2018 or whatever. It's like, hold on. I'm not an epidemiologist. I did study a lot of math and as a kid and then school later. But I do realize there's other changing little factors just a little bit can have huge outcome differences. Like, how catching it is in layman's terms, right? That little factor and how many people die from it, right? It could be up to 14%. They're estimating. Hong Kong University is estimating yesterday.
Yeah, my buddy.
14%. That's a lot.
That is a lot. My buddy goes, it's Mother Earth shaking us off. It's like it's the world trying to get
Mother Earth. Yeah, Mother Earth's in charge.
Yeah.
Never underestimate a virus.
Yeah.
Never underestimate a virus. Or anything that Mother Earth brings to the table.
Yeah,
because we're just visitors, man. It's like the virus that we'll see. We'll know soon enough. It won't be long, and we'll know what's going to happen. Will it be another Ebola? That just kind of disappears.
Yeah.
Or will it be something huge?
A plague, a true plague.
We'll know soon enough.
Well, I always kid that one of my taglines I say a lot is life imitates art, and you look at different movies, you look at silly stuff like The Walking Dead or different things like that. And there's a sliver of truth in every form of art, and so it could easily, not that we'd have zombies or nothing silly like that, but there are things I think that could just mass devastation as far as human nature goes. It can really wipe out tons of people, and next thing you know, we're all walking around with masks and doing mass graves, and it's because you have no choice. You have to get it taken care of or incineration or whatnot, and because you don't even want to put it back in the ground. So it can be a scary thing, but you try not to walk around and be scared about it all the time, but you have to be cognizant. Well, definitely
got to be cognizant and be prepared. That's why I'm going to actually, let me see if there's any message from this epidemiologist. I'll tell you. But keep an alert on, let's see. Steve Bannon asking me to come on his show. Let me see here. But I don't see anything from these epidemiologists. I'm reading for some stuff. But I think, it's going to play out over the next, days. I mean, the incubation cycle apparently is about 6 to 8 days or so, something like that. It's long enough that you can, jump on an airplane, and millions of people have traveled in that period of time, and all internally within China. So, they've blocked off how many cities now? Is it 14?
Something like that.
20?
I knew it was it. I heard the first one the other day, and it was like it was a major city or something like that. They shut down all the mass transit and stuff like that because they didn't want people huddled up with each other. But I think it's going pretty quick. Yeah,
they've done some sort of quarantine now on about 40 million people, I think, is an estimate. So, but it according to the experts, it's. I mean, the house is on fire, man. It's too late. When the fire alarm happened, you pull the batteries out. And now, the neighbor called.
Yeah, you travel a lot, and this is something I was talking with somebody else about. It's pretty wild, and it's not to get off on oh my God, world's coming to an end thing. But, there's some crazy things going on when you look at Australia burning, and they found out that they arrested like actual climate change Nazi people. They actually set fires to that handled a lot of that. And then you got the people getting sick and, just, and I don't know if it's because information is spread more easy, so we know more about what's going on around the world, or just more crazy stuff's happening. You got more of a finger on the pulse because you got contacts all around the world. But it's got to be weird looking at your phone and your buddy from here or there, wherever, is telling us, well, this is going on, this is going on. It's got to be information overload for you sometimes.
Yeah, it's a lot. You have to. It's a fine line between how much do you pay attention and how much do you focus on output as well, right?
Sure.
Because all this information doesn't do me any good if I don't tell you, right?
Sure.
And so, but you can focus on it too much as well. So it's always and the same with combat, like out in the war correspondent stuff. A lot of people will go off to a war and they'll spend like a week or whatever, 2 weeks, and they'll come back and write a book about it.
Oh,
and
God.
like just the invasion of, for instance, Iraq and Desert Storm, or they'll just be like, oh, here we were, and this is worthy of books actually. But I have a different way. I don't even feel like I'm there until about, say, 3 months or so. Like if you look at my Iraq work, I didn't write any serious work for about 3 months. And then I started getting really serious about 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th month. And then from then on, I was very serious, right? Because it took me a while to go, what's going on here? There's a lot of shooting. I can see that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's, it's confusing. It's very confusing. You get in there, like, who's doing what to whom, and who can I trust? Who's accurate? There's different components to developing good sources. One is they have to be basically honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a substrate of the rest, but they also have to have access to the right information, right? And they have to have good filters themselves, because you can't be everywhere. But one of the things that I was able to do, say, in Iraq and Afghanistan, Thailand, now Hong Kong, is I spent enough time in those conflicts that if somebody starts to tell me about it, my bullshit sensors are highly tuned. Like they'll tell me about so-and-so and I'll be like, hey, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Or, hey, this guy's dialed in. This guy might be a good source, right? But to be able to set my filters finer and finer and finer, it takes more time on the ground. Like right now, when it comes to Hong Kong, I can hear a journalist talk about Hong Kong for about the first minute or 2 minutes, and I can tell you whether or not probably knows what he's talking about, or she knows what he's talking about or not, because I spent more time in that fighting than probably just about any of the correspondents at this point. Because I haven't been in any fighting for about 3 weeks. I guess 3 weeks, right? Something like that. And the last fighting I was in was on about New Year's Day-ish, something like that. And certainly on New Year's Eve, I was in some, and then maybe a couple more times. But so I've been out since that time doing admin stuff, and I'm going to go right back. So, but I'm out there so much that the people that go out a lot, we get to know each other, right? That's what I'm getting to. It's not like you're spread out in Iraq or Afghanistan. Right. You'll end up seeing each other a lot. Like there's this one preacher, he's out there all the time. He's not a journalist or anything. He's an older guy. He's a preacher. He's always out there with just nothing but his shirt and his, like, he looks like a preacher. He's dressed like a Southern preacher. He's just got, plain, and he's out there getting tear gassed all the time, hit with rubber bullets, sprayed in the face.
That's crazy.
On New Year's Eve, he got sprayed in the face by me with the pepper spray. So I see him. He's extremely knowledgeable, the preacher, but he's not really publishing much because he's a preacher, but he's telling his friends and stuff.
Right.
But so anyways, what I'm getting to is when like Iraq or Afghanistan or Thai fighting or Japanese and Korean issues that I've studied in detail, which we haven't talked about. Once you've done it enough, it makes it easier to develop you first. If you really want to do this well, you have to build your own frame of reference and your own knowledge base. Otherwise, you can build a house of cards on sources and not realize they're not good sources. Right. Because they're sources that are using sources. The best, which they all do, but some of the best places I've met sources is on battlefields. Like, here's this journalist or here's this soldier. He's out here all the time. He's always squared away. So anyway.
And you build a trust too, right? I mean, they know that you're out in the mix, and they're more willing to. A good source is more willing to talk to you.
Yeah, and also accuracy. They see that, hey, that's actually what happened, and then they end up being your your credibility. I mean, because they'll say, yeah, that's actually what happened. I can't believe he could remember that. And I was like, I can remember it because I had a camera rolling.
Yeah, no joke. No joke.
Like, my memory is perfect when I got my camera going.
Absolutely. Well, to touch weird base is one of the videos I saw, which I thought I was actually impressed. I'll tell you, I was impressed with you. Is the little minute or a few seconds you have with the British commander, captain, or whatever he was in Hong Kong, which is weird to me, and I got questions. I thought the British government was no longer dealing with Hong Kong. So why was a British police commander in the mix with the, Chinese police or whatever, however that's structured?
That's a good question. Now, Hong Kong was a British colony,
right,
for many years. And then in 1997, they turned it over to Communist China, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was already a lot of Hong Konger police that were British subjects, right? So they stayed on the force. So they're still this is the last echoes of the British that are still on there. And some of them are, actual commanders, like that one commander that I was shouting at. His name's Bradley Wright. He's not a commander of the whole police force. He's a commander of Mong Kok Police Station, which is one of the districts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was calling him a British traitor. You could hear my American accent. I knew there was journalists everywhere. So, I mean, having been in a lot of insurgencies and information combat, if you will, I was like, this is a perfect opportunity. Here's the commander in charge of a lot of the police who have really done a lot of crimes against humanity right in front of me while I'm live streaming. It's not just my word. Look at my live streams with audio and video, right? 4K, right? Doing it, they just do it, right? And so he was walking down the street on New Year's Eve on Nathan Road in Hong Kong, and I was like, this is such a wonderful opportunity. That's when I started shouting, it's the British traitor. Look at the traitor. You're a traitor, right? And he heard my American. I was like, I know he's going to have to take this bait. American voice, American accent, calling him a British traitor. He took it. He took the bait. He actually, you can see him on the video. He actually walked right up to me and goes, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, the Hong Kong, he said that twice. I'm just doing my job. Keep in mind, Hong Kongers call the Hong Kong police Chi-Nazis. They call them Chi-Nazis because they actually behave like that. And so,
like the SS.
And so when he's like, I'm just doing my job, and he said it twice, I'm like, you can't make up a script this good. You're just fitting the mold of what they are saying that you are, which is what you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they basically are representing Beijing, right? And Beijing is, the PLA, the people. I'm looking at my battery over here. We got plenty of battery. The People's Liberation Army is not the army of China. It's the army of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party rules China, right? It's like the Democrat or the Republican Party ruling the United States, one-party system, and they have the military that works for, imagine the Democrats or the Republicans in charge, or any party in charge of the United States. No other party would ever stand up again. I mean, the Democrats would wipe out the Republicans, and the Republicans would
wipe out the Democrats.
Oh, for sure. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you mean the army works for me now? Right? It's like, it's like, yeah. And so that's the way that goes. And so with the Hong Kong police, they're clearly puppets of Beijing, CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. There's PLA bases, People's Liberation Army bases, all over Hong Kong. I think 17 or 18, right? Quite a few. I mean, often, you'll see them in my videos. We'll be out there, and there's a base right there, right in my videos. And I'll say there's a Chinese base right there.
Do you feel like because you're outspoken, do you think they ever seek you out? Do you think you're discussed? Do you think you're, they say, hey, keep an eye for this guy?
Definitely. I've got, information that they don't want me in Hong Kong. It's clear. I'm surprised they haven't arrested me yet. I'm surprised they haven't beaten me yet. There's been times when we've had very close altercations. That was just one, like coming up and pushing back on me and whatever. And I've actually pushed back reflexively a couple times. It's a wonder they didn't really beat me up and flex cuff me right there. At one point, they were threatening, or numerous times they threatened to take me to jail. But one time, it was on my live stream, threatening to take me to jail. And the guy, he's like, turn off your camera. And I'm like, you can see it on my live stream. I was like, no, or something like that. I'm not going to turn it off. And he's like, and he tried to turn off my camera. I wasn't going to turn it off. I'm not going to, because what you want to happen is you want to keep it rolling, right?
Sure.
But if it's turned off, you don't want them to be able to say, well, we asked him to turn it off and he turned it off. Or, he turned off his camera of his own will. No, you want them to physically turn it off, right? It was live streaming, so there's no way they're going to actually erase the video because it's already up, right?
Sure.
And so he thought he turned it off and he shoved it in my bag and it kept going with the audio. And they're threatening to, arrest me and all this stuff. And I'm like, call my embassy. I'm just like, totally, I don't want to talk with you. Call my embassy, right? And my name is Michael Yon. Call the United States Embassy. You know who I am. Call them up. I don't care. He's like, are you threatening? We'll just take you to jail and investigate you. And I'm like, I don't care. I want to go to jail. It's on my audios. You can see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am that guy that'll just go to jail. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's, that is a victory against them if you do. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to be there for 50 years or something. It could be, but it's not like that would be a huge victory. It would be international news and it would be damaging for them. Sure. And they obviously know that. They do abuse some foreign journalists and, in my case, correspondents at times. But mostly they're much worse to Hong Kongers. Much worse. But, oh, yeah. I mean,
it's almost like
the rubber bullets and all that.
Yeah, it's almost like who they got to go run to if they're from Hong Kong because, you can go to the American embassy, whereas, you actually have somewhere you can go. But
yeah, don't turn off the camera though. No matter where you're at, don't turn it off. And I mean, I shouldn't say no matter. If you're in some place and they really will shoot you right on the spot, it's probably smarter to turn it off. Right?
Turn it off, yeah.
Yeah, and generally speaking, you want to keep it rolling.
Well, I do have a question. My brother actually texted me a question, the one that was in Ranger Battalion.
Tell him hello.
Yeah, I definitely will. He wanted to know let's see. He says he wanted to know if you ever had any close calls from being taken when you were like in Afghanistan or anything like that. And also, did you carry any personal firearm at any time? when you were over there, if that was even close to being allowed. And a few other questions was any combat that happened where you had to pick up a weapon as being a correspondent to protect yourself?
Oh, yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. Okay. And they would all be yeses. So everything is a yes.
Oh, wow.
Now, okay. When did your brother leave 3rd Ranger Bat?
It was probably 4 years ago. He was in, and hopefully I'm not lying, I want to say he was in 3rd Bat for 10 to 13 years.
Shoot. Then he knows Eric Carrillo.
Probably.
He'll know Eric Carrillo because Eric Carrillo used to be commander of Ranger Regiment, right?
Okay.
And then now he's commander of he's left 82nd. He's moved on to 18th Airborne Corps, I think. Anyway, but I think he's a 3-star general now. But one day, like up in Mosul. Now, okay, if you're an embedded war correspondent, it's illegal to carry a weapon, right?
Okay.
Because you're supposed to be a non-combatant, right?
Right.
Now, there are some very rare circumstances when it's fine and it's legal. And I did, in one circumstance, pick up a weapon and fire it after Eric got shot. So he would have probably been your brother's commander.
Oh, wow.
He got shot 3 times in front. He wasn't your brother's commander at that time. He was commander of an infantry unit called the Deuce 4, the 124th Infantry Regiment in Mosul. Incredible unit. It was the most decorated unit in the Iraq War. They had about 183 casualties actually out of the battalion, just a battalion.
Wow.
So that was about, say a third or so, something like that, casualties. It was a lot of combat. And Eric got shot one day 3 times, and I picked up a weapon and helped out. And I fired, actually. But hear a helicopter? Is my audio picking that up?
Nah, I can't hear it.
Okay, good. That tells me it's not picking up even something that loud. My audio is much better than it used to be. Yeah.
Oh, I heard that.
They're gonna probably fly over my house soon. Often they fly right over my house. But anyway, to get my gain right, should be back to 5. I think that was what we were on. Is that good?
That's good.
But yeah, one day one of our guys got hit with a sniper. His name was Daniel Lama, and he got hit in the neck, and he was okay. It was just a graze. And then we were out looking for the sniper, and long story short, got into a firefight. Eric got shot right in front of me while I was photographing, actually. Wow. And he got hit 3 times, and I was shooting 5 frames a second because I keep my camera attached to my body armor right here. You got that strap. Yeah. So I would hang it off of that with a 550 cord, right, parachute cord, and that way I could have my hands free, right. And so, but when we're running in combat, I would hold the camera and just keep the button down, because if I don't hold it, it'll hit me in the face, and it's a big ass camera. So we were in that firefight, and I was running down the alley, and I just kept the frames going 5 frames a second, and that was when Eric got shot. So I've actually got photos of him actually getting shot. Actually, this is the most intense photo sequence I've ever seen in any war. Some people have brought that up to me over time, because, as a war correspondent, I've seen loads of, and you've seen as well, loads of combat photography. But if you look at the entire sequence of what I've got shot that day, it is actually the most intense combat sequence I've ever seen from anybody in any war. Wow. If you look at the, and they're not all published, but like, for instance, Eric's running, that would be your brother's commander. What's your brother's name?
Will Bolin, Bowlin.
Hey, Will. So this is your commander later, right? Eric Carilla. So we're running down the alley, and I'm shooting 5 frames a second. It's actually focusing because it's a badass $8,000 camera. And then Eric gets shot. Boom, 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 right? Very close range. We were both very close. I just had a 50 millimeter lens, which is the small lens, right? And it still had everything. And so, so Eric gets shot. Femur's broken in half. So if you saw him walking with a limp when he was your commander, he's walking in a limp because he got his femur shot in half right there. He's walking with a limp now, or last time I saw him. And so he got shot in the bicep as well, and he shot in the other leg. So Eric does a roll, and these are all in my 5 frames a second. 5 frames a second is 300 frames a minute, right? So that's about half as fast as an M16 shoot. So you know how fast that is, right? 5 frames a second. So you can see Eric roll, and he doesn't get up because his leg is broken in half, and he starts firing his M4. And then this lieutenant comes up, and I didn't realize he was shot yet. I thought he just did this incredibly cool combat role. He's super athletic, and I'd seen him in a lot of combat already. Mostly you don't see battalion commanders getting into that much combat, but I'd seen Eric actually kill people right in front of me several times. Normally you don't actually even Vietnam veterans would be like, I was there for 2 tours, and I never even saw anybody that we may have killed somebody. But in Iraq, oh dude, we were seeing the kills right in front of us all the time. I mean, it would be like urban combat. Sometimes it's super tight, right? And it would be like right there. And so I had actually seen him kill people himself, and it was clearly him. And it was like, Eric was a serious warrior, and he was always leading, and he starts fighting. I'm still shooting photos. I didn't realize he shot yet. And a bullet hits right this close to me, as close as this iPad away, right? A bullet hits that close while I'm photographing at a lieutenant right above his head. He's like, right, his head is here. Yeah. And the bullet hits off the wall, and I'm photographing it this close. You can see the bullet splashing off the wall. So keep in mind, Eric's just been hit 3 times. Bullets, I catch a bullet splashing off the wall this close, right? If you read the dispatch I'm talking about, Gates of Fire, it's called Gates of Fire. And so those a lot of the photos are published, Gates of Fire. And then And then the lieutenant that just had the bullet hit by his head, he had never been in combat before. He was replacing another lieutenant, I think was wounded or killed, I think wounded. And he refused to fight. Anyway, I told him to give me a grenade and all this stuff, because at this point I now realize Eric has been shot, because I was like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? There's bullets flying everywhere. I'm like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, I'm shot. I'm hit 3 times. He was actually right. He was actually hit 3 times. And that's when I was like, give me a grenade, you know, and I was like, give me a fucking grenade. And the guys didn't have any grenades. I was like, and so then the sergeant major came over. This is Iraq. He ended up being that sergeant major in Afghanistan that, you remember when the general almost shot the helicopter?
Yeah.
So this guy comes into the scene now, Rob Prosser, one of the most ultimate soldiers ever. He used to be in Ranger Regiment too. He got second place in Best Ranger. Will knows what that means. That's tough, man. He got second place. And so Rob was in Ranger Regiment, and then he's there. You know, now he's about to be in hand-to-hand combat. So Rob runs up, and Eric's on the ground, bleeding, still shooting. Rob comes out. Now I'm looking behind, but I'm still shooting photos. I'm looking behind because I'm thinking we're going to get hit from the back, right? So I'm looking back. I'm still shooting photos this way. And I hear all the firing from Rob, but I'm not watching. I'm watching in case we're going to get hit this way. And I turn, and this firing stops. I turn around. I was like, shit. And then I saw Rob's leg on the ground, right? And I was like, oh God, one of our guys is dead, right? And and there's a photo of that, because I was just keeping I wasn't consciously doing photography. I was just like, you know, like a dummy with my, you know what I mean? And then I looked down, and I was like, there was a rifle at my feet. It was Rob's rifle. I was like, shit. And I picked it up, and it was empty. And the bolt was jacked back, and I like told that lieutenant, I was like, give me some ammo, right? So he gave me a 30-round magazine. I flipped it in. It was on auto. I switched it to semi, and then I went around and fired, and I cleverly hit a propane canister. It was like point blank range too, because I went down low. I was trying to draw fire, so I wanted to get them to shoot at me so I could kill them, right? So I went around and I went bap bap, hit a propane canister. Unbelievable thing. It didn't even go back, man. It came at me, right?
Oh shit.
So, oh yeah, no shit. And I'm like, you know. And I knew that smell immediately, you know, that propane smell.
Yeah.
And your brain's working like 10 times faster than it's working right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
your brain can kick into turbo boost. It was turboed, and I smelled got a whole mouthful of it. So I was like, oh no. And I'm getting back from it. I didn't say, oh no, but I was just like, oh no, I hope nobody shoots, you know, and I was like, I needed to keep shooting, but I didn't want to shoot because I was covered. It was propane everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
And man, propane canister comes spinning around, and I'm going back to fire again. And then these soldiers come down the alley, and I was like, thank God, man, more soldiers here. These two won't fight. Eric is shot up. He's still fighting. He's unbelievable. I love that guy. He's an inspirational man. He's a total badass. He's a killer. He's a total killer. Yeah. And same with Rob Prosser. So Rob Prosser was in there strangling. Rob Prosser shoot the Al Qaeda guy 4 times, right? Point blank. He only hit him 4 times. He fired 30 rounds, but it's kind of dark in there. It was actually noontime, because you can see the clock on my camera. It's like high noon, right? Yeah. And so it's super bright outside, but it's dark inside.
Yeah.
And Rob hit him 4 times in the torso and blew a testicle off. And the guy was still standing trying to fire a pistol, right? And it was something was wrong with the pistol. It was out of ammo or something. I don't remember, but it wouldn't fire. And luckily, that was when Rob threw, and that's why I hate M4s. Actually, I love M4s. I hate the caliber. I hate 5.56, right? Mm-hmm. I hate it. It's just too weak. I saw too many enemy get shot, and then they keep fighting, right? Like in this case, if we just make that 7.62 or something intermediate, like that 6.5 or 7 or whatever it is.
6.5 more, yeah, they're trying to get out.
Just make it halfway or something, because the platform, we don't need to fix the platform. We don't need another rifle. M4 is fantastic. Just needs a bigger, more powerful round. Because this case, he shot 4 times, right? Eric shot 3. Al Qaeda dude shot 4. Al Qaeda dude's still standing up to fight. I'll give him credit for that. As much as I don't like Al Qaeda dudes, I have to give credit where credit's due. He was still standing, trying to fight. Rob throws his rifle down. That's the rifle I found. So Rob was strangling his ass, right? And Rob was obviously wearing gloves because there were so many fires and stuff from the car bombs with accelerants and stuff. And so Rob's in there strangling his ass, and Rob had his watch. You know how you carry your watch on the face on the inside? So Rob's trying to strangle him, which I didn't see that. I just see Rob's leg, right? And that was when I got his rifle and loaded it. And he said Al-Qaeda was biting his watch, you know, trying to get to his wrist.
Yeah,
and Rob's powerful, man. He's strong, dude. Got second in range, best Ranger comp. I see him in the gym. I'm like, he's like an ape man. You know what I mean? He's a proper infantryman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he's like, he's a straight up warrior, you know, and not to overuse that term. He's actually that, you know, like Eric. Yeah. And so Eric, the one that was shot now, and so which would have been Will's commander. So when I shot and hit that propane canister, Rob told me later, he's like, Mike, I almost had him, man. I almost had him strangled out, and you shot that damn propane canister, and it woke him back up again. I was like, sorry about that, man. I mean, it wasn't the plan. It wasn't the plan. The plan was to kill everybody standing that's not an American soldier or a civilian. You know what I mean? Sorry about I apologize profusely. I should write him an email and apologize once again. But I mean, I said I should call him up anyway. But I mean, it's like, anyway, so he got over it because then he invited me over to Afghanistan later, and we were roommates. Yeah. And so I love Rob, and Eric is an unbelievable warrior. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from both of them. That's why that Deuce 4 unit in Mosul was so effective. Was their leadership was like Eric and Rob, and some of the officers and NCOs were like Rob Bowman, and so I was just incredible. Van Antwerp. They were really some great officers and NCOs in Deuce 4. I miss those guys. You know, that was a lot of combat though. But when you're with guys like that in combat all the time, and you know, you just make friends that'll be friends for life. That's one of the. There's not a lot of good things about war, but there is one good thing. One good thing, like I already have made friends in Hong Kong. I'm quite sure we'll be friends for life. You make friends faster than you will in any other situation. You'll make friends in combat. That's the fastest you can possibly make friends, I think, is combat. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or something like that.
Even for
when you're like, hey, you're like, that's like a real man right there. He's always in the situation. He's always ready to go. He's always like, let's go. Got the right attitude. You're like, you know, the respect is real quick. And, you know, I missed the Deuce 4. That was a great unit. That was the best. I told Eric, I'd been with him for just a few days. There'd been, on my very first mission, there was a V-bed car bomb hit one of the strikers. It was horrific. Caught on fire, you know, is terrible. And I saw how the Deuce 4 behaved. We got back to the base on Bob Merez in Mosul. And Eric said something like, can you take it? Or something like that. I don't remember. It was something like, can you take it? Or he's like, you know, I was like, I'll stay with you guys as long as you'll keep me. I'm not running away from car bombs. I'm not running away from snipers. I'm not running away from firefights. I'll stay as long as you'll take me. He's like, stay as long as you can take it. And I was like, let's roll. So I stayed until the end. I stayed for 5 months with him, and that was it. Eric was actually the last casualty. He was the last casualty because they were getting ready to. They were already ripping, right? They were either, or maybe just about to rip. Relief in place. Will Will probably did that if he was fighting in the wars. And so they were either ripping or about to start ripping, and they were starting to rip. And I stayed to the end. And then I just went off with other combat units. I just kept going. I just kept on going.
That's wild.
And I just kept going for I'm still going. I mean, I'm still going. except in Hong Kong, it's not highly kinetic yet. There's only been a few shooting incidences, and it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't Mosul, or it wasn't, you know, what your brother, I'm sure he must have been in, if he was in Ranger Regiment during the recent years, his chances of being in combat are like 98%.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I'm still going. I mean, the main thing is, you know, take care of yourself, drink water, not grain alcohol, and you know, go out, get in the sunlight, you know, and don't get in, let's talk about combat all the time, and, you know, I had it so rough. Hey, man up, get back on the street. Now, people hate it when you say that about PTSD, but it's like, you seriously have to set that expectation of, we're going to be leaders of the United States when this is over. We're not going to be laying on a couch, swilling alcohol and smoking dope. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's you gotta, get with the program. If they want to do it a little bit, whatever. But I mean, not to the point where they become a waste product and they're, bad for their family and bad for their community and themselves and just, but you can set the right expectation, a warrior expectation, right? You don't just retire and have PTSD for the rest of your life. You got to keep doing something. You got to be a leader.
I think if you stay engaged, just staying engaged from whatever your activity will be after that, whether it's doing what you're doing, whether it's, owning a construction business or whatever, just stay engaged and just do your thing.
Construction business, anything that keeps you going, man. You're not laying around just collecting a check. You got to keep going, keep working, start a business, work for somebody. A lot of the veterans go off and do PSD work. Sorry, my dog.
That's all right.
Come on, I adopted her off the street.
There you go. Well, it's like me. It's funny. I do combat sports. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing. I used to fight in MMA, and
that's great.
And my wife and I talk about it from time to time. Is if I go a certain amount of time without some sort of training, and I train 3 to 4 days a week, if I don't train for a couple of weeks, it almost gets in my head. I almost feel like I'm not getting those toxins out of me. You know what I'm saying? By sweating it out.
You start to feel bad, actually, don't you? You start to feel like it is an addiction when you're doing serious sports all the time. I mean, I'm not addicted to combat or something. I'm not a combat freak. I don't go off to all these little wars everywhere. I only go to the ones that are really important and where a lot of our guys are getting hurt or killed or whatever. And I can do something to make a difference. I don't go to all these little wars in Somalia that I don't care about. I mean, I don't want them to be in war, but I'm not going to risk my life to go there. And like what you're talking about with jiu-jitsu, I know what that feeling's like sports wise, but it's not what I feel like combat wise. It's not like I feel like, I got to go get me some combat. It's not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, not like
even,
that at all.
even when I'm doing it, it's not about going out and hurting somebody, but it's just going out and getting that energy out and making your mind work, making your body work, making your, just doing something, just getting that, it's my walk in the sun, if you will.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, jiu-jitsu, man. That's like the toughest sport ever. I mean, it's like really hard. It's really, it's like everything about you is getting fit.
Yeah, well, that and that and boxing is one of the most live things you can do because there's no line to it. You're either good at it or you're not good at it, and your opponent's going to let you know. Yeah, your opponent's going to let you know real quick. And so I've been doing it for a long time. I'm a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm about to get my black belt, and so I've been doing it for 10 years.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
No-gi forever. So that's all I do. That's all I've ever done. So I feel you when you say you gotta stay off the couch, so to speak.
That's right. You gotta get out and do something. Be leaders of the community, or like teach kids to do jiu-jitsu or something.
Yes, absolutely.
Raising them up to be in the right mentalities.
Yeah, I do women's self-defense classes. I do all that kind of stuff. You give back a little bit, and I think giving back makes you feel good. And
it does.
A lot about what you're doing is giving back, making people aware,
That's why a lot of soldiers and stuff come back and they'll take up something that's teaching, because it does, I like to teach, and that's why I enjoy social media a lot, because we get to talk about everybody's, you always hear this. It's true. You learn more when you teach than you do when you sit in the classroom.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man, that's very true. But yeah, I love to teach. That's good that you teach jiu-jitsu as well.
I teach jiu-jitsu a couple nights a week, and then I train a couple of other places nights a week, and do combat submission wrestling and Thai boxing, and so I stay pretty active.
Ask your brother. A lot of people think hand-to-hand combat's finished. They're wrong. Hand-to-hand combat's still quite common. I'm sure your brother's seen it at some point. I've seen it numerous times. Hand-to-hand combat's still quite common.
Yeah, they talk about that too. They were, that goes back into, and it goes to a good question too. Is somebody was saying, and I truly believe they don't do enough instruction in hand-to-hand combat in the military when they should do more. They focus
No, they
more on
don't.
they focus on the gun, which they should. But to me, I really think they should push. And maybe I'm ignorant to certain, depending on what units or whatever you are in. But I really think they should push hand to hand now that everything's going to an urban environment,
Yeah.
especially because you round a corner, you got an M4, you round a corner. If it's not up, and the guy standing there, girl, whatever, and they can keep you from raising that rifle. Next thing you know, they're hands on. You got to know what's
Happens
going
all
on.
the time.
Yeah.
Happens, especially in the urban environments. Happens
Yeah.
all the time. It happened quite a lot. It happened with Deuce 4 numerous times. It happened with other units I was with. It's funny. Quite a few people have tried to get me to come on board with women should be in the infantry. I'm like, no. And then they'll immediately say you're a sexist and all that. I'm like, no. Women in combat is fine. They're in combat. I see them in combat all the time. I was with them side by side. Mary Prophet was on my page just yesterday. Mary Prophet is she's a librarian now, but she was with Deuce 4. She was doing civil affairs actually attached. Mm-hmm. And you can see video of her online, in firefights, IED strike, all stuff up. She was in combat. She was doing great. And she was very hardcore. Now she's a librarian. So when I have research stuff, I'll ask her like, Mary, can you help me with stuff? And she's awesome. She just got a freaking Deuce 4 tattoo like last week. She's like,
oh, that's awesome.
How old are you? I'm like, you're a retired colonel. She loved Deuce. She loved Deuce 4 so much, and me too. And Eric was like, "You're gonna get a tattoo." I was like, "Nah, I don't do tattoos, but if I did, it would be Deuce 4." And but the women, I see women in combat a lot, and they do great as pilots. Their courage is not a problem. It's absolutely not a problem. On courage, I'd say we're about equal. Women and men are about the same, really, and can be more or less courageous in different situations, depending.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's because courage is a weird thing. It's got many dimensions to it, right?
Sure.
And so insofar as courage and dedication to mission and competency on mission, women are easily equal. There's no problem. Where the problem comes in is just physical and also aggression. And then people automatically go, oh, don't just talk about upper body strength. I'm like, upper body strength is important, and you don't just get to discount that, period.
Absolutely.
And it's very important. And the machine guns never get any lighter, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, if you're in an infantry outfit, especially if you've done combat, when there's casualties out here, there's bullets flying everywhere. This is not a timed PT event. Or like, for instance, when a striker's on fire and people are screaming and burning to death, that's a timed event. Every half second they spend in there, they're screaming and burning to death. Right. Can you get them out or can you not get them out? And it takes strength, and it's, I've seen that stuff happen. And it's like, it's very, very serious, and you have to, every ounce counts. And often people go, yeah, but I've seen men that could do it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I've also done shitloads of infantry combat, and I'm sure Will has too. And it just doesn't make any sense that they're actually pushing it. But they'll call me sexist and all this. I'm like, that doesn't make sense, because I'm totally fine with women flying F-18s and A-10s, and they're out there in infantry. They're out there in infantry combat all the time.
Some of the best helicopter pilots are women, because they have that finesse touch.
Yeah. Oh, actually, some of the pilots have told me in the past that often women are actually better pilots for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They got that finesse touch, man. They don't put that strength in it. It's all about, I've actually flown a helicopter once with some guidance, and I'm going to tell you what, it's all about that velvet touch. It's not pulling on that stick hard, So it's for things like that, like you're saying, it's not about strength. It's about competency, intelligence, finesse of touch, and things like that. So, but
infantry, like Ranger Regiment or a lot of the SF stuff, Delta, all that stuff, just infantry, you just got to have some ape strength going, as much as you can get. And remember, units come in units. They don't come in ones, right? So we work as a team. And let's say you have 100 women versus 100 men. The women can't carry that much. They can only maybe carry half as much as we can at best, right? Mm-hmm. At most. And as you know, you're always carrying the maximum, not always, but generally you're carrying a lot of stuff. Ammunition doesn't get any lighter. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Mortar rounds don't get lighter. None of that stuff. Medical stuff, the radios, batteries, all that stuff. Water, it just weighs what it weighs.
Yeah, you're
And no
roughing
matter how much,
107 pounds.
yeah, and it makes a difference on how much you can carry, because you know what that last weight is your ammunition. I mean, there's certain stuff you have to carry. You have to wear a uniform. You got to carry, your weapon and water and stuff. But that extra weight, the more you can carry, is stuff like ammunition. It's like an extra javelin missile. It's an extra, radio batteries or something that's mission essential. If you can't carry it, it reduces the amount that the entire unit can carry. It reduces the commander's options. It slows things down. When there's casualties out there,
my buddy Joe.
You take even Joe 4 strong men. Yeah. Go ahead.
My buddy Joe says ounces make pounds, and
pounds make pain.
That's right.
Yeah. And then I would see all the time missions being altered when there's women on. And you'll never see this play out back in the world, so to speak, because you have to be there to see the situation. Like I'm thinking of one in my head right now in Afghanistan. Going around the end of a wall. Was Will in Afghanistan?
He was I think he went to Afghanistan. I know he was in Iraq. I can't remember if he did time in Afghanistan or not. I know Iraq, but I can't remember Afghanistan or not.
But when you're going around a wall, like the end of a wall, that's often where they put the IEDs, right? Because like around that corner, right? And so we'll go over the walls when we can. There's all these walls between the cornfield and the marijuana field and another cornfield and whatever field, right? And so there's little walls everywhere. So we're always going over these walls. So it's a constant obstacle course, constant. Often the women can't get over with their gear.
Sure.
A lot of them can't get over. And so we end up altering the missions into easier routes. Dude. You're begging for IED strikes.
Yeah.
Begging for ambushes. The reason we take these hard routes. Now that doesn't translate. People will go, what if they don't lower the standards? It's like they will. And you can go through that like 100 times. But what if they don't? You're like, but they will. But what if they don't? I'm like, let's don't talk about hypotheticals. It's not a hypothetical to say that they will, because they will. And they did.
If they don't, then they don't pass. And then now you're a piece of shit for not letting them pass.
Yeah, now you're a sexist or whatever. But it's a huge mistake. And, it'll be learned in blood. It'll be learned in blood. It'll be learned. It'll be caught on video cameras, and people will be like, why do we have women in infantry? Because you were sexist. You were sexist. Saying that we're sexist. Saying that we're using common sense. You called us sexist, which was a sexist thing to say,
Well, I always was concerned about, and this sounds crazy, is if your enemy knows that you are using more female infantry, they're more apt to try to take live prisoners than they are just trying to shoot. You know what I'm saying? And to me, I think the threat level of capture and rape is higher if they think that there's women that they could, it's easier to hold somebody hostage as well.
Yeah, I mean, they don't take many American captives in the recent wars. In the future, if we have different highly kinetic wars, more conventional combat, I'm sure there'll be a lot of prisoners taken. But there are some at times. I mean,
well, I'm just saying it seems like more of a target-rich environment if mindset-wise.
I mean, the real infantry guys, generally speaking, are not going to give up. Right. Not to the sorts.
Well, I'm talking about the ladies. I'm talking about if you have ladies in infantry, if
Jessica Lynch got captured, and they tried to make a hero of her and her transportation unit down Basra in Iraq in the first invasion of the in 2003 in March, and she was taken POW, and then the Army tried to make her. She's actually a hero. Young, well, she's not younger anymore. I think she's a school teacher now, right? But but the Army tried to make it out like she got all this, they gave her a Bronze Star with V, like Grisham got, and it got it actually in the same time frame, in the same division. Actually, it was a cookie cutter, and then they tried to make her out. Oh, she was firing her weapon until the ammo went out, and she's like, I wasn't doing that. She's honest. She didn't just roll with it. She's like, because the Army's like, we have a female hero, and so America get behind the war. She's like, yeah, but I didn't do that because she's like West Virginia girl or something. She was, I think, where's she from? I don't remember. Maybe Pennsylvania. I don't recall. She's cool though. But she was coming out and saying, I didn't do it. and actually after the IED strike, I think is what it was. I think she was unconscious. I'm not sure about that, but she was taken prisoner, and they raped her, and then finally, Delta and stuff went in and got her out and stuff. But I mean, but she didn't actually fight. I think she was knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
But the Army tried to make a big story out of it,
Yeah, but I guess the rape part is what I was more thinking about. Is you put more. I mean, they're not interested in capturing men as much as they would be interested in capturing women, just for those kind of reasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're always interested in capturing anybody they can get that's American. I don't know about all that, but actually, I need to cut it off soon. First of all, this battery's dying, and
that's understandable.
And I got some things I got to do. How long have we been on?
Oh, we've been on for a hot minute, man. I think over an hour or so. But I really appreciate you. I extremely appreciate you coming on. I know that you made a lot of time for me. We're about a 13-hour time difference, and so this has been a great interview. I'm going to have this thing posted up on Sunday, and hopefully you'll check it out and spread the word and let everybody know. And it was great information you gave me, and I appreciate your time.
Great, man. I look forward to it, and we can do it again sometime. It's just got to actually Bannon's waiting for something, and some others, and this battery on this Zoom H6 is dying.
All right, but I do appreciate your time, and I'll definitely let everybody know, and I'll keep a finger on the pulse of what you're doing.
All right, man. You know how to reach me.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.